Live from the Lone Star State, the SimPossible B-Car Series comes to the Texas Motor Speedway here for tonight's running here on 3Wide TV on YouTube. I'm Peter Short, and joining me here in the booth tonight is producer and co-commentator Carlos Acosta, and Carlos will be excited to bring you both live commentary and all these camera shots around this 1.5-mile racetrack. Of course, Texas Motor Speedway opened in the early 90s, early to mid 90s, and it has been host to NASCAR ever since. One of the fastest racetracks in all of NASCAR, and one of the trickiest 1.5-mile racetracks because of that corner right there. In fact, basically telling me exactly what I wanted to tell y'all, that that turn number 2, we're going to have to watch that corner all night long. Turn number 2 is really the one corner around this racetrack where drivers tend to suffer, and the number 22 machine making his debut in the SimPossible Racing League. That would be Tyler Sontag. And Carlos, Texas Motor Speedway, very, very fast racetrack. Turn number 2 is very, very tricky. But what are your thoughts about this 1.5-mile racetrack?
This, I would say, almost deceptive type of racetrack. Of course, we have the older configuration of Texas. We do not have the current new one. And, you know, if we were to pull a couple people out, maybe some drivers, you would probably get a consensus that they would prefer this old one compared to the new one. I'm sure you do as well, Peter. But yeah, something about this track, it's very special. It's a track that, aside from Homestead, I really enjoy racing at. It's one of my favorite ones as well. But you just have to be careful. These still newish cars to the system, you have to treat them with respect. You tap the outside wall, you get yourself some damage, and your night is pretty much done. Of course, Peter, with the SimPossible Racing League rules, how many fast repairs are we looking for each driver?
Yeah, these drivers will have 4 fast repairs, and I'm sure turn number 2 will claim a couple of them tonight, as you see the number 98 machine, Chris Roberge, there on the straightaway. And right behind Roberge is this man right here, the number 4, Nate Catilla. But one driver I'd like to focus on right now is that number 3 machine down there on the apron. We saw just a quick peek. There he is, Tanner Sharp, ladies and gentlemen, returning to the SimPossible Racing League. Had some surgery a couple months ago. All went well. He is in recovery, and he's pretty much all but finished that recovery, as he's out there on the racetrack right now in that bright orange number 3 machine. You won't be able to miss Tanner here tonight, and Tanner is looking to get back to victory lane in this B-Car Series. He's been there a couple times this season, but after a long sabbatical due to that recovery, he's back out there on the racetrack. So very, very cool story. We'll keep an eye on Tanner Sharp all night long, as looks like the number 98 of Chris Roberge has gone around. A little bit of contact there with Nate Catilla as the practice session has come to an end. Eddie Hawks, fastest driver in the practice session, followed by Dave Wilson, Kyle Zimmer, Tanner Sharp, and AJ Digby. Another interesting talking point this week, because we didn't have a race last week. 2 weeks ago, Kyle Zimmer punched his ticket into the championship finale at Homestead, Miami in 2 weeks' time. Which one of the other playoff drivers will be able to get themselves into Homestead, Miami here tonight? There will only be 4 drivers going for that championship race on November 13th. And the only driver we know out of those championship 4 who will be definitely going for that championship as of now is Kyle Zimmer. This is the second round of the round of 8. Next week we will go to the ISM Raceway out in the desert, the Tricky Triangle of the West. But that is in 1 week's time, and here they'll do battle at the Lone Star, in the Lone Star State at Texas Motor Speedway. As we see the number 9 machine, that is driven by Tim Masters, a hand-painted race car that's hand-drawn on a template and uploaded to Trading Paints. Pretty cool scheme on that number 9 machine. And you'll also see a hand-drawn scheme on the number 17 of Fernando Matos as well here tonight. Pretty cool on that number 17 machine as Tim Masters comes to the stripe. First car to take time with a 30.093. Good lap by Tim Masters. He was able to back up his practice time, and he wasn't the fastest in practice, only about the 7th or 8th position for Tim, but nonetheless, he's able to improve on his lap time here in the qualifying session. Here is league newcomer Tyler Sontag. coming to the stripe right now. We'll see what Sontag can do, and he's going to go with a 30.618, currently 4th out of the 5 drivers so far taking time. And that just about backs up his practice lap time, about half a tenth slower for that number 22 machine. Here comes the number 17 of Fernando Matos coming out onto the racetrack. But before we go any further, Carlos, do you have any picks for tonight's race out there based on what you've seen in practice?
Ooh, it's still early. I know top from when I was actually paying attention to practice before I had to actually get into producer mode and commentator mode. The 45 of Hawks was up at the top of the board, and he seems like he might be a contender tonight. But I can't live the rest of my life if I don't pick Tanner Sharp to win on his first race back since his surgery. Very quick return time from Tanner. We expected him to be back next season. He got back early. He contacted me a couple of days ago saying, hey, he's had a lot of stuff changing in his life recently, some for the better, some for the worse. And he wanted to try to get up here tonight, surprise everybody. Told us to keep it a secret, of course, and I kept my mouth shut and didn't say anything. And I'm glad to see he's back. He's not only is he back, but he feels comfortable behind the wheel. He feels a little bit better than he used to before. So I got to say, with all this newfound confidence and great feeling that Tanner Sharp is getting, I'm gonna pick him to win it all tonight. Not gonna win the championship, of course. He's too many races out, but it will be something good to see him get back on track and try to get a position to recapture all the glory he has. But before we do continue going on, you mentioned Kyle Zimmer moving on to the Final Four. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the other drivers that are in the playoffs right now. We have, at the moment, the current standings going on. Of course, Kyle Zimmer is the points leader with 3,484 points. AJ Digby is just 1 point behind with David Wilson 5 points behind that at 3,039. Christopher Birch is currently 4th at 3,113. That's the lap time. 3,036. Fernando Matos is 5th, 1 point behind that. Nick Attila is currently finding himself 6th at 3,030 points. Tim Masters is 7th with Alan Capers, rounding out the last of the drivers, who only has 3,000 points at the moment. He is currently 44 points behind the leader and about 30 odd points away from the top 4. So it's going to be hard for Tim Masters to make it through. But it is a winner-take-all for Homestead, and it's also winner advances to the final rounds. Who do you think has what it takes, maybe especially from these playoff drivers, to win tonight?
Well, I think the number 20 of Dave Wilson is going to come out here tonight and show what he's made of. He's currently atop the leaderboard here in qualifying. We've seen Dave Wilson here be very good at Texas Motor Speedway in some of the past races. So I expect to see that number 20 up near the front all night long, as he's, like I said, top of the leaderboard by 6/1000ths of a second over Eddie Hawks. Good pickup by Dave Wilson in qualifying. He picked up about 1/10.5, as did Eddie Hawks. Remember, we said Eddie Hawks was fastest in practice, but another pretty decent pickup for that number 45 machine, just not quite as much of pickup as Dave did. But nonetheless, we are going to go over into the race session as qualifying has ended. 13 cars did take time. We did have a couple elect not to take time here around this place, but it is my home racetrack, at least from the oval side of things, and it is a really fun racetrack to go to. Definitely produces a lot of green flag racing, and I hope to see that here tonight. But let's see if we can go down to the starting grid. Let's see if we possibly might be able to remove the in the booth overlay, perhaps.
Whoops. Speaking of, I apologize for that. Anyway, let's go through the grid. I'll go ahead and start it off, Peter, if you don't mind me talking. Row 1, we're gonna have the number 20 David Wilson started on the pole with Eddie Hawks, who I noticed was early in practice. He also might be a contender tonight, so we gotta keep an eye out for him. Third place, we got Billy Wise with Elaine Day, one of the newer drivers, in row number 2. Row number 3, we'll have Tanner Sharp, the return of the Master, in the number 3, with AJ Digby on his outside. Row number 4, we'll have Tim Masters and Kyle Zimmer on the outside. Road number 5 will have Nate Catilla and Tyler Sontag. And Tyler Sontag being, of course, this is his first race. He's a rookie with everybody. Great guy. I got a chance to talk with him before the race. So looks to see he might be a good contender out here going on. Road number 6 will have Chris Roberge and Fernando Matos, and I believe that's Johnny Barty also put up a qualifying lap in 7th, and Peter will have the rest of the drivers that did not put a qualifying lap.
Yeah, Tom Johnson in the 57 machine will roll off from the 14th, and Kevin Cochran will roll off from 15th, Alan Capers 16th, Brian Lowhead 17th, Thomas Wise will start 18th, and Wayne Lowe will start 19th and shotgun on the 19-car grid. Really good grid here tonight, Carlos. 19 cars out there. Very impressive to see all of these cars in this league continuing to grow. If you're just now joining us and you're new to the SimPossible Racing League, it is a league for disabled drivers. All these drivers out there have some form of disability, and they definitely don't show that fact out there on the racetrack. All of these drivers have really progressed, Carlos. That's one of the things that's impressed me the most over really the past year now that the SimPossible League has been around, is just how much these drivers have continued to grow in an environment where no one judges them for anything. Their disability is their disability. All these drivers understand that. And it really is a great place for them to race and learn how to race amongst other drivers. And, I'm on Facebook quite a bit. Brian Lowhead, he's always streaming races out there, and I think he's grown in confidence to be able to race around these guys. But it is races just like this one that will give people that opportunity. And finally, the green flag is in the air. The number 20 of Dave Wilson in that Viagra Toyota will get a pretty darn good jump out there. And he's going to have Eddie Hawk slot in right behind him. But the first side-by-side battle is back now for about the 5th position. Alan Day up there on the top side. He's being freight trained by cars on the inside. The number 9 of Tim Masters is to his inside. Now here comes Kyle Zimmer trying to get around that number 68 machine up there. So Alan Day really dropping back as of right now, maybe trying to see what that race car has underneath him. As we are one lap into the book, Carlos, it just seems like that outside groove does not have any pace as of yet.
It's entirely possible, also considering how different these cars handle compared to how the B cars used to handle the beginning of the season when we had the old ones. But it's also maybe something that's not exactly bad to do. Maybe drop back, get a feeling of how the car behaves under heavy traffic, trying to get a feeling. Something you don't want to do, as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, is just tagging the wall, driving a little bit too hard, maybe with some dirty air affecting you. You tap that once, and then while you do have fast repairs, the last thing you want to do is waste them on you smacking the wall. You would rather save them for an incident. As we see Tanner Sharp making his way up to 3rd at the moment, as we see, I believe that's the 14 of AJ Digby pound that outside wall. He's going to have some heavy right side damage. Oh yeah, I'm seeing, he didn't get it as hard as I thought he did, but he does have some damage, and that could slow him down as the run goes on. Which is something I was mentioning, don't overdrive it. Not only can you hit the outside wall, but you can also just give it too much beans down to the corner and spin yourself out. We saw some people doing it in turn 2, and if I would place money on that, I would say the first caution would come out as a result from something happening in turn 2 here.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it in the pre-race that this racetrack is pretty deceiving. It is. For whatever reason, turn number 2 here at Texas is possibly the most deceiving corner on any 1.5 mile racetrack in all of NASCAR because the banking just drops away so quickly. Let's see if we can go on board with one of these cars and you can see what I'm talking about. Here you go. You see the banking just all of a sudden flattens out. And that wall comes at you very fast. We have a car almost going around in the back. The 32 Billy Wise just fishtailed it all the way down the back stretch. Let's see if we can get this one on a 3-wide TV replay. He's still trying to save that 32. Looks like he's finally able to do it. But you can see he's just wibble-wobbling that number 32 all the way down the back. Fantastic save out of Billy Wise here. He's dropped quite a few spots, but he's only got a little bit of right side damage to show for that. And luckily, he'll be able to keep on going out there, but I'm sure he's learned his lesson from that one. We have a side-by-side battle now for the 2nd position between Tanner Sharp and Eddie Hawks, and Tanner Sharp has taken that spot. Tanner Sharp is another driver who's been very, very quick at Texas Motor Speedway here in the SimPossible Racing League, so I'm not all too surprised to see Tanner up there. Carlos, I know You said he was your pick, kind of the feel-good story, his comeback race after being away for quite a few months. And that number 3 machine is absolutely closing in on the number 20 of Dave Wilson. In fact, last time by, Tanner Sharp and Dave Wilson ran pretty similar lap times, but over the last 5, Tanner Sharp has been about half a tenth quicker than your race leader. So keep an eye on that bright orange Halloween Perky Pints Chevy Camaro as he dives his way off into turn number 1 there. Very interesting to see kind of 2 unique lines there. Tanner Sharp backed up the corner a little bit. You saw Eddie Hawks get right to the back bumper of the number 3 machine, and Tanner was able to get back in the throttle just a little bit earlier, perhaps trying to save that right front tire, just being gentle on entry into turn number 1, and that will pay dividends on the long run as we have so far eclipsed 8 green flag laps here. It is a fairly lengthy race here tonight, 200 miles around this 1.5-mile oval, so these drivers will have quite a bit of distance to play with. And Carlos, that kind of goes back to what you were talking about earlier. Don't overdrive your car early.
Yep, that's true. And if anybody's paying attention to the ticker and trying to see if anybody has gone to the garage or gone a couple laps down so far, everybody that's competed in the race, hold on, Tyler Sontag is slowing down.
Carlos.
He's hit the outside wall. Caution's going to come out as he makes some contact with, I'm not sure who that is. That's the 66 of Brian Lowhead. Calamity entering actually turn 3, a very shocking place to see that. I wouldn't be surprised if the accident actually happened because of turn 2, but we're seeing here the 22 has already spun out. So let's go back a little bit more. As the 22 panics a little, hits the outside wall, and just how the speed that these guys are going. What happens when you hit the outside wall, Peter?
Oh man, you hit that outside wall and it's like a springboard, let me tell you. When you go to engineering school, one of the earliest things you learn is the momentum principle, and that is exactly what happened right there. Tyler Sontag hit the outside wall, just bounced off, and all of a sudden got into a very uncontrollable situation. And unfortunately for that number 22 machine, he's got a decent amount of damage, as does Brian Lowhead and Thomas Wise. In fact, I think a couple of those cars on pit road right now does look like the 22 machine will drop 1 lap down, as possibly the number 99 of Johnny Berardi. But all your leaders are going to go into their pit box here, led by the number 20 of Dave Wilson. There you see that number 99 machine finally leaving his pit box 1 lap down. For now...
So, sorry, pardon me about that. I will say AJ Digby and Chris Roberts did elect to stay out. As Tanner Sharp will be taking the, off the cars went down pit road, he'll be taking the lead.
Yeah, good job by Tanner Sharp there to get off pit road first. Looks like he had about a 14.8 second pit stop or thereabout, and that was surprisingly about 1.2 seconds faster than Dave Wilson. So that is really the reason why this number 3 machine will come at least will be the first car off pit road. I do expect to see the number 14 of AJ Digby and the 98 of Chris Roberge on pit road here. Don't think they'll stay out, and that is just because of the tire fall off here. The race car tends to get very, very slippery. In fact, let's see if we can bring up the current track conditions here at Texas Motor Speedway, because it's a pretty slick one here. 105 degrees track temperature. And that will make these cars pretty darn slippery, especially on the exit of the corner. And I think that's exactly what we've seen out of the 32 of Billy Wise and the 22 of Tyler Sontag here tonight. Both of those cars getting slideways coming out of the corner. Interesting to see here, though, Carlos. The 14 of AJ Digby's going to stay out there on the racetrack and not come down pit road. I can only think that this will not end well for that number 14 machine.
I have a quick take on this, and of course this is nothing's confirmed because I personally don't have the access to race control, any of the information, or what could have happened, or any other visual that they're seeing. But I saw the 14 of AJ Digby and Chris Roberge. It seemed like they thought about going down pit road again, but this was a quickie caution. This would be the time where the second or the lap drivers would be going down pit road. So it's possible that iRacing closed pit road for them, and if iRacing closed pit road for them after the leaders have gone down pit road, that's going to be a drive-through penalty or a stop-and-go penalty once green flag returns, and that would be even worse than just them staying out. So if that's the case, staying out right now is the better choice.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it. It was a quickie yellow, only a couple of Caution flag laps. Pace car back on pit road. The green flag now back in the air. AJ Digby and Christopher Burge. Oh, a little bit of wheel spin. And there we go. Big wreck here on the front stretch. The 98 and the 20 both going around. Those are two teammates. And oh my goodness, the 66 of Lowhead is being thrown around like a top on the front straightaway. A couple of cars, they're still wrecking. Can you believe this one? The 66 machine of Lowhead there. Watch this. He gets clipped right there by the one of Thomas Wise and gets thrown up into the air. That Tampa Bay Devil Rays 66 machine being tossed around like a curveball. And boy, oh boy, yeah, there's the number 45 getting into the wall, Eddie Hawks. And I think, Carlos, that was just old tires. The 98 machine tried to get going, couldn't do so. You can see him just get a little bit sideways when he hit the power down. And the number 20 right behind him had nowhere to go but into the back bumper, and it was on from there. So very interesting to see that. Of course, this will work out for AJ Digby because he's still your race leader, and I'm sure he will now have the opportunity to come down pit road and get 4 fresh tires if he wants to. I think this is on board with the 66 of Lowhead. Yeah, there's that big hit. You see the gyro cam going to work, getting on 2 wheels a couple of times there. Not what Lowhead wanted. Of course, he already had to use a fast repair once in the first caution flag, and now he'll have to use another one here. There's the 68 machine of Alain Day on pit road. And Alain Day, definitely not what he wanted to have here in the early going. Tough break for him. And there is the number 98 of Christopher Burge, who restarted second there, had some wheel spin, and it was on from there. Ooh, AJ Digby looks like he's got that right side damage from earlier. That's right. No further damage on that machine. That was when he clipped the wall, Carlos, like you were saying. Ooh, man, the 13, Alan Capers, one of your playoff drivers as well. Currently coming into tonight 8th in points. He unfortunately missed out on the last race at Kansas 2 weeks ago. But back here tonight in the SimPossible B-Car Series, as Tanner Sharp has stayed out there on the racetrack and has taken the race lead for the first time tonight. And Carlos, let's see if we can get it on board with the number 9 machine of Tim Masters, looking at the back end of Tanner Sharp, because he's got some right rear damage on that number 3 machine. Let's kind of see. You can kind of see it there. There we go. Yeah, very spooky. Got a little bit of a crumpled right rear, but hopefully we don't see the skeleton of that number 3 machine here tonight. Hopefully he's able to keep it out of the wall and out of the carnage that may happen. Of course, it is one day until Halloween here, if you're watching on VOD or whatnot. So that's why that number 3 machine is sporting the very festive colors here tonight. Good look on that number 3 machine. Got porcupines on the side. And then you got Tim Masters in the number 9 machine right behind him. So good run so far by Tim Masters. Nate Catilla currently in the 3rd position. Limitless role play on the hood of that number 4 Ford Mustang. Billy Wise currently sits in the 4th position in the number 32. Remember, he had that tank slapper down the backstretch about 10 laps ago or so. And then behind Billy Wise is the number 45 Hawks SimWork machine. Currently rounding out your top 5. Remember, Eddie Hawks started this race in 2nd, fastest in practice. I'm sure we'll see Eddie Hawks come back towards the front before this is all said and done. Interesting to note, Carlos, Alan Day in the 15 machine.
No, 68.
Looks like the 68. He's in the 15th position. Live timing and scoring get me all screwed up. But Alan Day, he has no front end. I'm not quite sure if he has decided to stay out there and save a fast repair, but I don't think this is going to work out too well for that number 68 if he doesn't come down and get it repaired. Same thing with the number 99 machine.
It's rare, but I have seen some drivers been able to hold speed without a front bumper like that. I've even seen a driver win a race at a track similar to this. Of course, that was when the driver was hoping that a caution would immediately come out before green-white checkers, and it did, so that's how he won that race. But I got some news to share with you, Peter. Are you ready for this?
Oh, do you?
Yes, I do.
I'm ready.
I received some inside information from a source who will not be named, but apparently he is verified on Twitter. I received this information saying it is super slick today, but if we can get a green flag fuel run, it's going to be about 55 laps give or take, but with how hot and slick it is, I'd expect people to short pit for tires. So that's some inside information from a verified Twitter source. I am not allowed to name who this person is.
Jeff Gordon?
Uh,
Is Jeff Gordon verified?
Actually, he is, as a matter of fact.
I think it's Jeff Gordon.
Oh, we got some. I can neither confirm nor deny. But we do have some inside information. If anybody on the chat would like to guess as to who it is, feel free to throw any guesses out there. If you want to mention any drivers, we'll be willing to talk about them. On that note, we should be getting one to green right now. And yes, we're going to be going green next time by. If we do get a green flag run, more than likely, the drivers will short pit before they can go for the full 55 laps, give or take.
Yeah, just doing the math right now, Carlos, we still have at least 2 more pit stops necessary out there on the racetrack. We're 115 laps away from the full distance. Now, you might be able to stretch it if you really try, but let me tell you, stretching the fuel window here at Texas Motor Speedway is pretty difficult just because of how fast this racetrack tends to be, as we do have a couple of race cars near the back who are pretty severely damaged out there. It looks like they have decided not to use a faster pair, but nonetheless, we will go back to green flag racing here at the Texas Motor Speedway with 115 laps to go once the flagman drops that green flag back over this racetrack. Very interesting racetrack this, Carlos. I've been here multiple times, but from the top seats, you can literally see this whole racetrack. It is an absolute spectacle to go to if you have the opportunity to go to Texas Motor Speedway. But nonetheless, green flag is back in the air. We're back to green flag action, and the number 3 of Tanner Sharp is going to pull away from the field. Looks like a lot less action this time. I'm sure most of the field is glad to see that, as Tanner Sharp will dive his way off into turn number 1. Tim Masters trying to slot in behind him, but Nate Cotillo says, hey, buddy, not so fast. I'm going to fill that void. And now Nate Cotillo in the 4 machine has moved up into the 2nd spot, but the number 9 of Tim Masters saying, hey, bud, I want to get that 2nd position back as they head through turn number 3 and 4. And wow, about 3 different lines in play there through the center of the corner. Really interesting to see that. Usually all these drivers glued to the white line, but Tim Masters showing his muscle up there on the top. He's going to take that 2nd spot away from the number 4 machine, at least for now, and keep Tim Masters in 2nd. Here comes the number 25 machine just a little bit further back. Kyle Zimmer been a little bit quiet so far, but Kyle Zimmer is always a driver who you expect to see up near the front here in the SimPossible Racing League, as AJ Digby sliding up the racetrack a little bit right in front of the number 20 of Dave Wilson. We go on board with the front end of the number 20, now the back end of the number 14 machine, as Dave Wilson almost giving that number 14 a bump on entry into the corner. There's some good side-by-side action right behind these two, as looks like the number 17 of Fernando Matos and the 32 of Billy Weiss did battle a little bit off into turn number 1 and 2, but now here comes Dave Wilson down there on the inside line. And Carlos, we see a lot of cars down there on that white line, but do you expect to see some of these drivers possibly migrate up if tires start to be a big concern as the 4 machine goes around the number 9 perhaps? What are your thoughts?
That depends on how slick the tires get. If it gets to the point where it becomes kind of undrivable exiting the corners, maybe going up high would be the better choice. Of course, then that introduces getting loose in the middle of the corner. So it's a fine balance you have to play. In this case, though, as the laps wear on and it becomes harder to drive, especially exiting the corner, it's going to become more of a momentum type of racetrack, similar to other tracks that have high banks. Especially up high, and I would gather these drivers will move up high, sacrificing some middle of the corner stability so they can get a better drive off in the corners. Because the last thing you want to do is not be able to touch the gas until you get to the backstarts.
Do you want to update the field here on the fact that we have 13 cars on the lead lap? Tyler Sontag and Christopher Burge currently racing for the Lucky Dog. There they are. But Tom Johnson currently the last car on the lead lap. But back up towards the front, Kyle Zimmer in the number 25 machine. He's caught the number 4 machine of Nate Cotillo. Cotillo gets a little bit wide coming out of turn number 2. That's going to give the 25 of Zimmer a pretty darn spectacular run off into turn number 3. And there goes Zimmer. So move Zimmer up into the 2nd spot. Zimmer, of course, winning the last race at Kansas Speedway. He broke the streak that Dave Wilson had going, because Dave Wilson swept the round of 12, the first round of the playoffs, and very impressively so, winning on 3 very unique racetracks. And that number 20 machine was on fire until Zimmer came through and swept his way into the Final Four at Kansas Speedway. Speaking of the 20, we're on board with Wilson right now, trying to get to the inside of Tim Masters here, going through turn number 3 and 4. Really good run for that number 20 so far. He got caught up in that accident with the number 98 machine on that restart. But for now, Dave Wilson recovering really, really well, rebounding his way now inside the top 5 with still plenty of laps to go. And we are now pretty much looking at 1 pit stop from here. Presumably you could just make 1 more stop if you were to pit from now, but we have a caution out there on the racetrack. And Carlos, what do you see out there?
Well, I was just about to talk about the top, the latest 5-lap average. I'm going to try to see if we can figure out what the caution was for. It's for the 68 of Alain Day. Go back and see if we can take a look. Oh, no, it wasn't for him. There was a different wreck. I'm not quite sure who that was, though. Was that the...
I think it was Suntag in the 22 machine, who looks like he might have taken the 22 machine to the garage, unfortunately.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, definitely got loose coming out of turn number 2, it looks like, and you saw him spinning back up the racetrack. Yeah, similar thing to what happened earlier. Unfortunately, that number 22 machine was just fishtailing all its way down the backstretch and caught the inside wall, and that inside wall then shot him back up the racetrack. So that's not what we wanted to see out of Tyler Sontag here tonight. Tough break for him. I'm sure he's going to rebound next week. He, of course, is new to the SimPossible Racing League. Great to see new faces. And Tyler, unfortunately, his night did not go his way, but I'm sure, he'll come back. There'll be other racetracks here in the SimPossible Racing League, and he will learn from tonight. And that's really what one of the things this league is all about, just learning how to go out there and compete on these racetracks and better yourself. I know that's why I did lots of league racing, but all the leaders are on pit road. 3-car battle off of pit lane. It's going to be Kyle Zimmer taking the first car off pit road. I think he just beat the number 4 of Nate Catilla, and it looked like Tanner Sharp might have had some issues on pit road. Did not get that win. In fact, dropped all the way from 1st to 3rd in that number 3. So interesting turn of events here on pit road. Trying to see if anyone stayed out. Tom Johnson and Tim Masters both elected to stay out there on the racetrack. Just want to give a shout out to a couple of people in the chat. James Evall saying, welcome back, Tanner. Also, Grassroots Sim Racing, Alan Capers, number 13, Good Luck Drivers, and Jeff Schmidt in the chat. If you're in the chat right now, make sure you make yourself heard. We'll be keeping an eye on that chat all night long. If you want to make your voice heard here tonight. Currently under the 3rd or 4th caution flag. I think it's the 3rd caution flag here. Yeah, the 3rd caution flag here tonight. So far, been only 8 caution laps. There you have Kyle Zimmer, your race leader. Fastest lap so far, Eddie Hawks. Backing up his speed from qualifying and practice with the fastest lap in this race so far.
Now, Peter, fastest lap is it's pretty sweet and all, but what kind of really matters is the type of speed you're able to carry as the run goes on. Now, we were only able to get the best of a 5-lap average before the caution did come out. But from what we saw, the fastest 5-lap average actually belonged to Kyle Zimmer over Tanner Sharp. Tanner Sharp was, he wasn't that far off. He had the 2nd fastest lap time. Is that correct? Is Tanner Sharp all the way down in 14th? No, never mind. I'm having some scoring issues myself, it seems. But yeah, Tanner Sharp had the 2nd fastest 5-lap average.
No, you are right, Carlos.
He's 14th?
Yeah, Tanner Sharp elected to come back down pit road, it appears.
Oh, something must have happened.
Maybe, yeah, he might be getting some more of that damage fixed. Remember, he had that right side damage on that number 3 machine, and definitely electing to get it fixed out there on pit road rather than using a fast repair. We have seen Alan Day use one of his fast repairs in the number 68 machine, but he is currently I can't. Let's see. I think he's being scored 3 laps down. So tough break for the 68 machine. But I think he's just trying to get that damage fixed, Carlos.
Yeah, I see. For this restart, why don't we go ahead and go on board the 4 car and listen to him and his spotter try to figure this track out? Peter, is that a good idea?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course,
right.
the number 4 machine, driven by Nate Cotillo with his spotter Wayne Lowe. We'll jump over there in just a brief moment, but just kind of want to reset the field for you before we do so. Kyle Zimmer is your race leader. Nate Cotillo in second. Dave Wilson sits third. Eddie Hawks fourth, and Billy Wise fifth. Ladies and gentlemen, we will let Wayne Lowe and the 4 machine of Nate Cotillo take it away from here.
Side by side, right there. Right there, side by side. Move up a little bit. Little bit, right there. Right there, right there. Steady, steady, steady. Green, green. Inside 20, corner. Side by side 20, tight, 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 tight. At your fender, clear. Now 45 looking low. Inside corner. Inside, tight. Now you got a car width. Car width between you. You and the 45, he's going to your fender. Clear, 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 clear all around. Clear by half over the 32. Clear all around. Clear, 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 clear. Right on the 45. Give him a bump. Clear by 1 behind you. Clear by half. 32 coming to your bumper. Just run your line here. 32's you're clear by 1. You'll be clear into 1. All clear. Clear by 1.5. 32 try to pinch it off at 2. You're still clear by 1.5. There's a 0x contact, no damage, you're alright. Clear by 1. Still clear by 1. 32's got to run, but you'll be clear into turn 1. Clear by 1. He's got to have a run to you. Now he's backed up. Clear by 2.5. Side by side behind you. 9 and 32. Clear by 2.5. All clear into 3. Caution's out. Caution.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, caution flag in the air here at Texas Motor Speedway. Let's see what happened. Looks like the number 66 machine, Brian Lowhead, on the backstretch here having some issues. We'll see what happened here on the 3Y TV replay. Ooh, we're already turned around by this point. We said in the beginning of the broadcast, turn number 2 is the calamity corner here, and yep, just caught that wall just a little bit. Oof, hard impact with the inside, the retaining wall. Spun back up the racetrack. There goes the number 99, Johnny Berardi. But turn number 2 definitely showing why it is, at least in my opinion, the most difficult 1.5 mile turn in all of sim racing, Carlos. I know you have hit that outside wall as well, and just how tricky is it for these drivers?
I've thankfully never done it in at least not the outside wall of turn 2 in a broadcasted event. I've done it in official before. What really got me in a broadcasted event was actually coming off of 4. And that's the story to tell that I'll probably tell at a later time. But as we got some drivers going down Perry Road, exiting turn 2, very deceptive, like we've been mentioning all night long. You have to just be able to really take a good measure. Don't guess, don't hope. You have to know what you're doing, and there's no shame in just backing off and trying to attack another lap.
Yeah, without a doubt. As you see all of your leaders on pit road here. Looks like the number 9, Tim Masters, he's going to possibly take 2 tires here to pole vault himself up. And indeed he does, as does the number 3 of Tanner Sharp. Remember, Tanner Sharp was on pit road for an extended period of time last caution flag. He came down and got some damage repaired, it appeared. But now he's going to use a little bit of pit strategy to get himself back up in the field. Nate Cotillo in the 4 machine staying out. Alan Day in the number 68 looks like he might be trying to see if he can get the wave around here, as it doesn't seem like we're going to have a lucky dog. So we'll see if Alan Day is able to get that wave around here, if Nate Cotillo pits or not. But Cotillo is going to stay out there on the racetrack, so Alan Day has decided to come down pit road, rightfully so, get 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles, as we have now just reached the 1/4 race distance here at Texas Motor Speedway tonight. There is a 66 of Lowhead coming down. That's not been the night Lowhead was looking for there. So number 13 machine, Alan Capers, an extended pit stop for him. In fact, that number 13 machine looks like he was on pit road for he was in his pit box for almost 50 seconds, so not quite sure why. That number 13 machine looks nice and clean, so maybe he used a fast repair, or maybe he just decided to take a drink or do something else in his while his car was in his pit box, but he's still on the lead lap, currently being shown as the last car on the lead lap. Carlos, we're past the 1/4 race distance, and any thoughts about how this racetrack is racing?
It's racing as advertised. This is very tricky. This is a huge challenge for a lot of drivers, and I think once these drivers settle in, maybe a couple more cautions go by, we're going to be destined for a long run. Something I always say in a bunch of hard to drive races is that we tend to get less cautions in races like these, just because the drivers are more focused on survival than trying to race other people. And when that usually happens, they usually don't wreck themselves out. They tend to slow down and make it easier on them. I mean, we can't expect a couple cautions, but nothing like maybe driving it at an easier track.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Texas is a very tricky track. We keep mentioning that fact, but these drivers still have just under 100 laps to go. In fact, it will be 96 laps to go when the green flag flies once again as the pace car lights are off as they head around this racetrack. The pace car speed, interestingly enough, is 65 miles an hour, so keep that in the back of your head as they go around this racetrack under the yellow flag. Nate Catilla elected to stay out. He's got 9 laps. It will have 10 laps on his tires. Of course, only a handful of those were under green flag conditions, as he pitted under the last caution, had a couple of green flag laps in there. But we'll see what those few lap older tires will do. Will he be able to hold on to him? As I'm sure he will be getting a earful from Wayne Lowe under this green flag. It was great listening to those two under the last brief green flag run that we had, but the green flag is back in the air. The number 4 Catilla did not get this restart he was looking for, and Tim Masters is going to blow contact between the 25 and the 3, and there's a huge wreck right in the front of the field. And oh my goodness, the 32 Billy Wise, the 20 of Dave Wilson, the 25 Kyle Zimmer, all involved here, as looks like Digby was able to get through it in the number 14, but there was definite contact right up there at the front of the field, possibly trying to go 3 wide. Tough break for the number 3 of Tanner Sharp. He just kind of got hooked there on that restart. We go on board, I believe, with the number 3 machine here. Yeah, looks like he might have tried to go to the outside, of the number 4, and the 25, the Zimmer, was coming down. They made the contact, and so that will be a setback for the number 3 machine. Going on board here with, I believe, AJ Digby and the number 14. You see,
wow,
looks like he net-coded through that, Carlos, and sometimes net-code is your friend.
Yeah, I immediately got a message from AJ telling me to go on his onboard, and that did not disappoint.
Yeah, definitely. It all kind of happened right in front of him, and he just lucked through that thing. Sometimes the internet is your friend, as had pretty much all the cars just bounce off of him. It looks like he received no damage, so pretty crazy. AJ Digby now up into the 4th position in that Zulu Motorsports Ford Mustang with no additional scratches on it, but Tim Masters is your race leader, followed by Christopher Burge, and then AJ Digby, who will assume the 3rd position because the number 4 of Nate Catilla is on pit road. We do have some more cars on pit road, including Eddie Hawks, Billy Wise. In fact, I think there's going to be a couple cars here lose a lap. So it'll be interesting to see how the field all shakes out once we do go back to green flag. As of right now, there's 14 cars scored on the lead lap. Trying to see if who was the last lucky dog. Not 100% sure who that was. I can say that Johnny Berardi was, I believe he was 1 lap down earlier in this race. He is now back on the lead lap in the number 99 machine, currently being scored in 5th. So good for Johnny. being back on the lead lap. But another restart accident, Carlos. That's the second one we've seen tonight, and I think it's just these older tires are just having a little bit of difficulty getting up to speed.
Yeah, it's the second time already we've seen some of these older tires, some of these drivers on older tires just make a mistake. Although I'm not quite sure if we can actually attribute this one to an issue with old tires. It just seemed like maybe a couple drivers trying to go 3 wide or so in a spot where maybe somebody else was going as well, resulting in some contact and a bunch of drivers getting involved. I don't think something like this is going to happen again, at least not in the next caution or the caution after that. It's just still have more drivers going down pit road and getting some of their damage repaired. For a track like this, I'm actually seeing more cautions than I would usually expect. But as I mentioned the previous caution, this is something that once the drivers get into a long run, we're going to be seeing less and less cautions.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm sure these drivers, now that they've had 2 instances of accidents on these restarts, I'm sure they'll have that in the back of their mind going forward here in the iRacing service. If you're just now joining us, it is the second round of the round of 8 here in the SimPossible B Car Series. 4 drivers will be racing for the B Car Series Championship in 2 weeks' time. Only one driver has punched his ticket into that season finale. That is Kyle Zimmer in the number 25 machine, but unfortunately that number 25 machine was pretty torn up in this last accident. He was able to use a fast repair to get that machine fixed up. They do have 4 fast repairs here in the SimPossible B Car Series, so Zimmer electing to use one of those here tonight. The other drivers trying to punch their way into the season finale, well, it's been an interesting night for them. One of those drivers is AJ Digby, currently running in the 3rd position. Chris Roberge currently running in 2nd. Alan Capers is currently 7th. Dave Wilson is in 8th. Alan Capers in the number 13 machine is being scored in 7th as live timing scoring continues to update out there. Tim Masters, though, he's another one of those drivers already leading here, trying to see if he can end the race where he is right now out there on the racetrack. In fact, Tim Masters really needs a good showing here tonight, Carlos, as he's a decent chunk of change. He's 9 points behind Chris Roberge coming into tonight as the bubble driver, and Roberge currently out there. 2 Masters is outside, so these two gonna battle this one out here as the pace car lights are off. And it's going to be good to see once these guys go back to green flag racing. We do have a couple cars on older tires. First car to come down pit road is Kyle Zimmer in the number 25 machine. But this front row has not pitted in 8 laps, but the green flag back in the air. There wasn't much green flag running that last green flag run as they just barely made it past the start finish line. And here we go again, another accident on the restart. That's Kyle Zimmer in the number 99 of Johnny Berardi. And unfortunately for Kyle Zimmer, Carlos, he's stuck in the inside wall.
That is not good for 25 of Kyle Zimmer. Very bad luck indeed, as a couple other drivers also involved in that. As I'm not sure if it's a 25 that's stuck or if it's 99 that's stuck, but none of them are moving anytime.
Or if they're both stuck. Yeah, they're definitely, looks like they'll both have to get fast repair back and a tow back to their pit road. They're both stuck basically within each other, inside the wall. That is not what you want to see happen here at Texas Motor Speedway for either of those 2 drivers. Luckily for Kyle, he has already punched in to the next round here in the SimPossible Racing League, so he doesn't have to have the most stellar night here at Texas Motor Speedway, and I'm sure that's what he's thinking right now is, hey, you know, oh well, but we're already in the championship round. He's already done what he had to do to get there. So I'm sure he won't be all too upset, but he's a race car driver, and of course he wants to go out there and win yet another race. He's been by far one of the fastest drivers all season long. Kevin Cochran in the number 80 machine also receiving a decent chunk of damage under that last accident. He's still out there on the racetrack on the lead lap, but I'm sure he'll come down and use a fast repair. Dave Wilson also receiving damage in the number 20 machine. This is really not the night Dave Wilson was hoping to have He's already received damage on multiple occasions in the number 20 machine, and maybe he's going to have to rethink his strategy here if he starts to run out of fast repairs. Using fast repairs is always a strategy here in the SimPossible Racing League. Do you want to use them early, or do you want to, race a damaged race car to try and save them towards the end if you get any type of damage early? And I think right now for Dave Wilson, he's going to use another fast repair here.
It depends on how heavy the type of damage is. If you hit the outside wall early on in the race, don't use the fast repair. That would kind of be wasting it. But if you get involved in an accident and you can't see your hood, or you can't see your hood, it might be a good idea to get that repaired. We can expect a couple more cautions, but it's still a mystery. I'm still not certain if we're gonna be getting another barrage of cautions, or if we're going to be going caution free for a large part. And you don't want to get stuck on gambling on going with multiple cautions, going caution free, and then going a lap down or more just because your car has heavy damage.
Yeah, without a doubt, as pace car lights are continued to be on, and we'll have to see when we do go back to green flag racing if we can make it into turn number 1. I'm sure these drivers are a little bit frustrated right now, running around this racetrack at only 65 miles an hour. And I believe we're on board with the number 13 machine as he drives off of pit road here. That will be Alan Capers in that number 13. Indeed it is. And also on pit road, the 66 of Brian Lowhead and Christopher Burge. Those two drivers coming off pit road back onto the racetrack. There's Fernando Matos in the 17, possibly getting as much damage repaired as possible. Johnny Berardi is in his pit box in the number 99, and that's such a shame, Carlos. We just mentioned a little bit ago that Johnny Berardi had worked his way back onto the lead lap, and he currently sits 2 laps down out there on the racetrack, although he did just use a fast repair, but the field is coming by once again. So that number 99 machine has gone from being back on the lead lap now to 3 laps down. The only other car 3 laps down is Alan Day in the number 68. There goes the number 99 of Berardi now. But yeah, he has fallen 3 laps down. There's actually only 12 cars on the lead lap right now. Billy Wise, Thomas Wise, Kyle Zimmer, Johnny Berardi, Alan Day all find themselves multiple laps down. Tyler Sontek, the only driver so far to take his machine to the garage. Not the night that number 22 machine was looking for on his SimPossible Racing League debut. But at least for now, your race leader is the number 14 machine of AJ Digby, who stayed out there on the racetrack once again, Carlos. He now has 12.6 laps on his tires. Again, pretty much all of those laps have been under the caution flag, so I don't think he's going to be hurting too bad. But this will be the first time that number 14 has clean air tonight.
It'll be interesting to see what's going to happen. Main key thing right now is for all the drivers is not spin the tires, be aware of your surroundings, and just try to make it to turn 1 without bringing out a caution. As a pace car is off, the leader's going to get going. Let's see if they're forcing him to spin the tires or not. Nice clean start for the 14. He's going to be clearing the number 4 even before the start-finish line. Taking number 14 to the top spot as Nate Catilla is actually going to be trying to hold on to his second spot as the 57 and the 3 are battling side by side going into turn 1. Everything's looking nice and clear, Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. And the number 4, Nate Catilla, is going to jump to the high side here down the backstretch as they are now side by side going off into turn number 3. Tella going way upstairs in that number 4 machine. And Digby right down there on the white line, but I think Catilla's going to get the run here coming out of turn number 4, and Nate Catilla leads that lap in the number 4 machine. But here comes Tanner Sharp in the number 3. He recently used a fast repair. Interesting to see that out of Tanner Sharp. Of course, that was probably after impaling the inside wall just a few laps ago. So Tanner Sharp back up to full strength. But the number 4 of Catilla is your race leader as of right now. They're side by side for the 3rd position, about to be the 2nd position, because Tanner Sharp has a run around the outside of that number 14, Carlos.
That's true. It's these drivers go side by side, going up almost 192 miles an hour into the corner. 3 wide and turned 1 for second place, as now they're going into 2 groups of 2, as now the 20 is going to try to take it 3 wide across the backstretch right now. The track is definitely more than capable of being able to hold the drivers going through the corners, but if one of the drivers messes up and moves up into another driver, that's going to cause a whole calamity, especially exiting off of 4. A lot of drivers could get caught up. Thankfully, these drivers were able to not necessarily single themselves out, but I think it's shortened that group by 1, so now they're going 2 wide for at the moment for third, as the 20th David Wilson is just charging his way through into third place. As Nick Attila starting to pull away just slightly from Tanner Sharp. However, based on the last lap, Tanner did have a slightly faster lap time. It'll be interesting to see what Tanner can do, if Tanner will get to the bumper of the 4, how he's going to get by him, and if he can get by him.
Yeah, and Tanner Sharp has been very, very fast. We've highlighted that. In fact, last time by, Tanner Sharp ran the fastest lap the entire race at a 29.799. There's no driver faster on the racetrack all night long than this guy right here, Tanner Sharp. In fact, last lap he qualified, or he ran a lap fast enough to qualify on pole, but a caution flag is out here once again, and unfortunately it's the 17 of Fernando Matos. You can see that very heavily battered number 17 Ford Mustang, and let's see what happened here. Yeah, looks like he caught the wall there down the backstretch. It just shot right into the wall, almost analogous to blowing a right front tire. That number 17 just jumped into the wall. Let's see what happened here, and yeah, just drifted up into the wall, and that sent him spinning on the backstretch. But we're back under caution flag here at Texas Motor Speedway, Carlos.
You caught me at a bad time. I was trying to cover my mouth from a yawn. Peter, thank you so much. This is about the 3rd time you've done it tonight, so I do thank you for that awkward silence you're forcing me to give out. That was a pretty good run compared to what we had before. Hoping to see if we can get a slightly longer one next time by. As we'll see if some of these drivers are going to go down pit road. They only ran a couple laps, especially Tanner Sharp, but in this case, though, these are actually green flag laps, as the majority of the field is finding themselves heading down into pit road. We're going to see if anybody does any 2 tires. I could probably see Tanner maybe taking 2, but we'll see how these drivers choose how many tires they're going to take.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see who wins this race off pit road. Of course, we've seen that number 4 machine of Nate Catilla all of a sudden be very, very strong up at the front. The number 3 of Tanner Sharp also be very, very quick. And the number 9 of Tim Masters here looks like he's going to elect to take 2 tires. Indeed, he does. So Tim Masters playing the track position game here, and he will win the race off pit road pretty handedly. Tom Johnson did stay out there on the racetrack for at least for now. Tanner Sharp, however, will be the 2nd car off pit road. Nate Catilla follows him, and then Dave Wilson. That's pretty much your top 5 as they run, at least until Tom Johnson elects to come down pit road in the number 57 machine, GoArmy.com Ford Mustang.
So interesting to see, as Tom Johnson only had one less lap run on those tires than what Tanner did, and Tim Masters being the only driver I can tell that took 2 tires. That took 2 tires. As he's going to be finding himself at the top of the board, considering that the 57 of Tom Johnson is going down pit road. Maybe possibly just wanted to lead a lap. I'm not quite sure if he was able to lead that lap, but nonetheless, he is down pit road at the moment. And that's going to hand over the lead to the only driver to take 2 tires. So Tim Masters finding himself in a unique position right now. They only ran a handful of laps. The tires may not be too bad, but this could be an issue if Tim hasn't tested it out in practice. I know there's been a couple times where I've tried to set up a practice for 2 tires, and it just didn't work out properly for me. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and take a quick break, as we'll be back right before the green flag comes out. All right, welcome back as we're entering turn 3 and 4 on the last time under this caution as we're about to head back to green. As soon as the pace car goes down the road, interesting thing to note will be to see what the 9 of Tim Masters can do behind the wheel, as he only has 2 fresh tires, with the other 2 being about 8 or 9 laps old, give or take. Pace car's off, green flag's about to come out, the 9's going to drop the hammer. As green flag is out, the 9 goes smooth issue, no problem there as he just barely clears the 3 of Tanner Sharp just after the start finish line, going side by side. Tanner Sharp's looking at the inside, but the 9 is going to throw a block in there, confirming the 9's going to hold on to the lead for just a little bit more as the 3 gets a pretty decent run off the corner, not enough to actually challenge the 9 at the moment, as they're going side by side for 4th place as the 14 and 45 are battling out for second. The 9 of Tim Masters is taking a unique approach throughout the corners, driving just a little bit higher into the entry of the corner. And as of turn 4, he actually continued running that middle to high line. As the 3 of Tanner Sharp take it to the inside, as now the 20 of David Wilson is pushing it on the outside of Tanner Sharp. This is exactly what the 9 of Tim Masters wants to see, as now they're going to be going side by side into turn 1. Maybe no, as the 9 throws another block down in there. Currently about to finish off 58 laps here at Texas Motor Speedway. The 3 of Tanner Sharp is right up the back of the 9 as he's looking to the inside. 9's going to throw another block again, crossing the start-finish line. These 2 tires appear to be doing a good job as some slight contact going into 1. Maybe the 3 is starting to get a little bit tired of not being able to get around the 9 in a clean way. Oh, the 9 gets loose and it's going to hit the inside wall. No cautions coming out yet at the moment. No cautions out. Single car spin. Let's go ahead and quickly take a look back to see what happened there. Was it the 3 spinning it out, or was it the 9 cautions out? I'm assuming it's for the same reason. The 9 car just gave it too much beans, exiting the corner, resulting in a spin. I'm trying to see just what happened that brought out the other caution, if something else did. But no, what actually brought the caution was the 9 getting loose in the backstretch. That was an admin throw caution.
Yeah, it was an admin thrown caution for that number 9 machine of Masters around. Tough break for Tim, and he just got a little bit loose. And Carlos, the number 3 machine, was tucked up so close behind him that he couldn't really back out of it to allow Masters the space to catch that number 9 machine. And there was that slight contact, which just made it worse for Tim. He was already a little bit sideways. That just turned him right around. So just hard racing here at Texas Motor Speedway, and that number 3 being tucked up right behind the number 9 machine, and underneath that spoiler will help make that car aero loose. And that is pretty much what we saw there. Tim Masters right there at the top of your screen coming down pit road here. I do expect to see a lucky dog. It looks like it will be Kyle Zimmer in the number 25 machine. For all you Kyle Zimmer fans, he will be back on the lead lap. Alan Day has gained one of his laps back. He's now only 2 down. Johnny Berardi still 2 laps down in the number 99 machine as everyone is on pit road. Ooh, the number 3 machine, Tanner Sharp, he is going to take 2 tires, and he will be the first one off pit road. Dave Wilson also taking 2 tires. Looks like Dave will be the second car off pit road, followed by the number 4 machine of Nate Catilla. So once again, some interesting strategy calls here, Carlos. A couple of cars electing to take 2 tires. We saw it. It worked out well for the number 9 machine until he broke loose coming out of turn number 2.
Yeah.
But once again, track position is important. I think these drivers are realizing it.
We were a bit skeptical of how that would have worked out for the 9 of Tim Masters, and he did a great job of holding off Tanner Sharp. I'm not sure if that would have worked out in the long run, but the positions he gained, of course, not counting the spin, would have been definitely a net gain had he actually stayed out and not made a mistake resulting in a spin. That being said, seeing somebody like Tanner Sharp, David Wilson, with 2 fresh tires, 2 old ones of roughly about the same laps that the 9 had, it would be interesting to see how these drivers can hold off other hard-charging drivers such as Nate Catilla, Eddie Hawks, who had one of the fastest lap times in the race before Tanner Sharp dethroned him. It's going to be interesting for sure as the drivers are starting to get more and more used to the track and its conditions. As a matter of fact, Peter, has the weather changed at all since the green flag came up?
Yeah, in fact, you look at that track temperature. It was 105 degrees earlier. Now it's dropped to 96 degrees. So that will help give this racetrack a little bit more grip. So we've already seen a couple of drivers out there slip sliding around, but as this sun continues to set around this 1.5-mile racetrack, that track temperature will continue to drop. Current local time in the sim is about 5:46, and the date is actually set to pretty much the middle of the summer. So nonetheless, it will continue to cool off here in the iRacing sim at Texas Motor Speedway. And of course, the other big thing in the iRacing sim is just the fact that now you have the entrance to turn number 1 in shade, and that will affect the grip levels on entry into that corner. It's pretty much completely in shade, as you can see high atop the Texas Motor Speedway
I wouldn't
there.
call that completely in shade. Oh, the entrance, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just the entrance there, but it will continue to slowly tick its way down through turn number 1. I don't think it will make it over turn number 4 until the sun completely sets, and don't really expect to see that here tonight. It would have to be a very, very lengthy race, as we are already now about 4 or so laps away from the halfway distance when the flag band will show the cross flags. Fernando Matos in the number 17 machine. Remember, we saw him on pit road last time, having a little extended pit stop, getting some damage repaired from his accident on the backstretch. Well, he actually elected to stay out here under this pit sequence, and he's actually the race leader here now, and the number 17 machine. So hopefully Fernando can use that track position to his advantage. He has 11 laps on his tires once the green flag does drop here. And it will be 70 laps to go, 70 laps around the Texas Motor Speedway. Still 105 miles for these race drivers to tackle here tonight, but the green flag is back in the air. Fernando Matos got a pretty good restart, but not as good as the number 3 of Tanner Sharp. Tanner Sharp looking for that race lead on the high side in that bright orange Halloween machine. And ooh, Matos checked up on entry into the corner. Matos still checking up. Looks like he can't get the power down on that number 17 machine. And the number 3 and the number 4 are going to rocket around the outside. And Matos quickly slid back into the 3rd position, holding up the number 20 of Dave Wilson. Wilson now looking underneath Matos here as they go through turn number 3 and 4. Get that position to Dave. So Wilson now up into the 3rd position as this race continues to really cycle. A couple of names up at the front who've been in the back and now back up at the front, and vice versa. So a really interesting night here. Do want to make note, unfortunately, that Thomas Wise in the number 1 machine has taken that machine to the garage and will become the 2nd retirement here tonight. And presumably, unless he's able to come back out onto the racetrack, we'll finish tonight in the 17th position as we focus on this battle a little bit further back. Ooh, here's AJ Digby in the number 14 machine. Remember, he's one of the playoff drivers, just trying to get around Fernando Matos. Has to check up there. Maybe a little bit of contact between the 14 and the 17 as we go on board with the number 17 machine of Fernando Matos. Battle for the 2nd position on the racetrack, as well as Dave Wilson and Nate Catilla are doing battle. There they are on screen. Wilson will take that 2nd position, I do believe, from the number 4 of Catilla. So move that 20 machine up into 2nd. He'll see if he can close in on Tanner Sharp. Remember, one of the storylines at the beginning of the race is Tanner Sharp recovery. He has been out of the race car for about 2 months in that number 3 machine. Finally back after surgery and doing a fantastic job leading the way here now at Texas Motor Speedway, as this time by, the flagman has the checkered and the white flag in hand, and he will cross those flags. We are halfway home in the Lone Star State. Dave Wilson currently in 2nd, Nate Catilla in 3rd, 4th is the number 45 of Eddie Hawks, and then you find Fernando Matos in the 5th position. That resets your top 5 here as we eclipse the halfway mark. AJ Digby is in 6th, then you find the 9 of Tim Masters, Alan Capers, Billy Wise, and Christopher Burge rounding out your top 10, although there's some fantastic battling here. Ooh, contact there between the 9 and the 13, and the 9 is in the wall. Now the 32, Billy Wise, both of those cars hard in the outside wall, and Billy Wise trying to save that number 32 machine. We stay green, but that was a lot of heavy contact with the outside wall coming out of turn number 4, and it looked like the number 13 and the number 9 kind of door checked off of each other. And fortunately for Billy Wise, he was an innocent party in all of that, and just got sandwiched with the wall. And that number 32 still running out there, currently not quite at pace. So we'll have to keep an eye on Billy Weiss as well as Tim Masters, whether they'll be able to run respectable lap times or whether or not they're down on power. Only time will tell. We now watch this battle between the 98 of Roberge and Matos, as Roberge has slipped by the number 17 up into the 7th position. Alan Capers has got around AJ Digby, so Digby is still in the 6th position. He was briefly up into 5th, but that number 14 machine has lost 1 position here to the number 13 of Capers. Good run by Alan Capers so far, Carlos.
That's true, as I believe we're also having some side-by-side battles, as now the 45 of Eddie Hawks has gone by the 4 of Nicotella. Nicotella is somebody who I've been really impressed with these last couple of weeks. He's really turned his season around. Not that he had a bad season, but more of his skill range. If you were to look at the early races this season, he's improved massively. He's running up front more and more. He was holding off Tanner Sharp for a while. He was up ahead running second. Of course, now as the run's going on, he's losing some of those spots, but he's doing a fantastic job of keeping himself up in the race. And if he keeps it up like this, I'm not going to be surprised to see him in victory lane anytime soon, whether it's going to be this season or next season. But going back to Tanner Sharp, I noticed something with Tanner Sharp on that restart. He was tired. He was fed up with getting cleared getting cleared from the lead before he even crossed the start-finish line. So this last time by, he nailed that restart, and not only did he not get cleared by the race leader, he became the race leader and ended up continuing to lead, as now David Wilson is starting to slowly but surely run down the 3 of Tanner Sharp. These last couple laps by Dave Wilson have been just slightly faster. We still have a long way to go, but if he keeps it up, he's going to be for sure, no doubt, going to be behind the three car in a position to pass him either naturally or waiting for Tanner to make a mistake. And if normally I wouldn't say Tanner would make a mistake, and he's not going to be somebody that's going to be so easily intimidated by having somebody just stay up behind him. But this is his first race back. It's been a couple months since he's been behind the wheel. It would not surprise me if he slipped up and just got some of that nervous jitters from just being behind the wheel for the first time. So this would be a great time to test the rivers of Tanner Sharp and see if he's able to hold strong.
Yeah, without a doubt, it has been quite some time since that number 3 machine was back on the racetrack, but definitely fantastic to see Tanner out there and putting together a very respectable run in his first race back. 58 laps to go this time by. Tanner Sharp knocking him down one at a time. Do want to make note, however, Dave Wilson over the last 5 laps has been about half a tenth faster than that number 3 machine. So Wilson slowly but surely starting to close in, and Wilson was actually the fastest car on the racetrack this last time by. There is Tim Masters in the number 9 machine, and remember, he had that hard contact with the outside wall coming out of turn number 4, probably about 7 or 8 laps ago now. He actually is really struggling in that number 9 machine, and he had contact on the front stretch, Carlos. In fact, let's see if we can go back about a lap ago with that number 9 machine, because Masters had contact with the outside wall through the tri-oval, the quad oval, I should say, and actually spun around in that. There you go. There you see it. And let's see if we can go back and see what might have caused this. He had the number 66 of Brian Lowhead right behind him. He just caught that outside wall, bounced down the racetrack, slipped through the grass, spun back up the racetrack, but no caution. Can you believe that? Yes, he was stopped on the racetrack, but I'm guessing there was just no cars around him. And iRacing decided not to throw that.
But there was a car
flag,
around him. You saw that. Right at the end, he almost made some contact. I guess maybe he wasn't sideways enough. Something that you have mentioned, Peter. This is one of the older racetracks that iRacing has, with the more lenient caution. I guess flat toggles. I don't know, lines. I don't know what you want to call it. I'm not the computer coding expert. I'm not the engineer like you are. But it's more lenient, so there's less likely of a chance to be a caution less in the racing line. And I guess iRacing didn't think that he was sideways enough to bring out the caution, but there was a driver that almost ran right into him. It was very, very close.
It was pretty close. Very, very interesting to see that. And Tim Masters is now one lap down. Billy Wise in the number 32 machine. Remember, he made contact with the number 9 machine. He was kind of the meat in the sandwich, if you will, as we have a caution out there on the racetrack right now. It's Alan Day on the backstretch in the number 68 machine. I think, Carlos, he might have fell victim to that turn 2 wall that we've been mentioning a couple times here tonight. There you see him having the issues making contact with the inside wall. See if we can go back just a little bit sooner. And here he is working his way out of turn number 2. Just got loose, Carlos.
He did hit the wall, but yeah.
He eventually hit the wall, but it looked like first things first as he got slideways coming out of that corner. And I definitely say slideways because there you see that slide. He did everything he could to save it. You see his hands trying to get that car to behave, but in the end it didn't. The 57 of Tom Johnson narrowly avoiding the spinning number 68, but that's not what Alan Day wanted. He's currently 2 laps down in that number 68 machine, and I think he's used a couple of his faster pairs already, and I expect to see him use another one here. But at least for your race leaders, they're on pit road with 53 laps to go. We'll have about 50 laps once we go back to green flag racing, but for now, the race is on pit road as the number 13 there, Alan Capers, kills the cone. Just briefly getting that one in the shot.
Yeah. Something I did want to mention is this one was one of our longest runs, green flag runs, about 18 to 19 laps of green flag, maybe not green flag racing, probably about 15 laps of green flag racing. It was enough to give me 15 lap averages, which I will go over in a little bit. Before we do that, I would like to see if Peter can catch up with one of our drivers, get a chat with them, maybe Tanner Sharp or anybody else. I'm not quite sure. Let Peter choose up to that. But what we saw was a driver getting loose. It wasn't a driver got tight and hit the outside wall. A driver got loose and overcorrected it into the outside wall, which is something that is kind of confirming what I was thinking of how bad the tires are degrading as the run goes on, and how harder it is going to be. Is more and more likely I'm going to see these drivers moving up into the high line or moving up on higher and higher as the tire wears on. Peter, have you caught up with a driver?
I have. I've actually caught up with a driver of the number 3 machine. That is Tanner Sharp, his first race back after a good chunk of time. And Tanner, how's that number 3 machine driving for you out there?
Loose, but at times not very productive. But no, it's been fun out here. It's just been it's fun that these cars on iRacing, because this is my first time driving these new Xfinity cars since that build, because that build came out like in September sometime when I was in the rehab. So it's good to be back in the driver's hands to maneuver these cars and not the tightness, so it's a little loose out there. I was really loosening up on them 2 tires right there as that run went on, and Dave was catch me. So loose but fun.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like track position is being important here tonight. We've seen a lot of drivers try the 2-tire strategy. Some drivers it's worked for, some drivers it hasn't. But how important for you is that track position out there?
Oh, it's important. I mean, when you're stuck back in traffic and some guys just don't want to give up the bottom line, and you don't want to run the guy over, for goodness sakes, it can really back up the time, and the leader can go bye-bye because he's working with that clean air. So track position is very important. This is where we want to be, so we can maneuver the car a little bit and see what we can do on these green flag runs.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see that out of that number 3 machine, though, tonight back out on the racetrack, Tanner. The pace car lights are off here, so we'll let you get back to it. But for these last 50 laps or so, best of luck.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is driver number 3 machine, Tanner Sharp, here tonight racing for Will Worsler Racing. Currently is your race leader. Nate Cotillo in the number 4 machine. Carlos, we've been singing his praises here now for a while. To his outside in that awesome-looking number 4 machine. Got a really good space vibe to it. It's got limitless roll play on the hood. So that's a pretty cool-looking machine.
Yes, that's actually some... I can't believe I forgot about that until now. It's a new partnership that just got formed recently with the Limitless RP server from 5M and the GTA 5 Online. So great to see that these two groups have decided to kind of form a small partnership with Nick Attila and Limitless RP. So I'll be trying to do my best to check them out sometime soon. I'll have to reinstall iRacing for that. But great news as Peter Pace Car is going to be pulling off.
Yeah, pace car back on pit road. We're going to go back to green flag racing. It'll be 50 laps to go here when the green flag drops. And there is the green flag, and well,
we're going into a radio broadcast.
A little bit of a radio broadcast here as looks like a little bit of iRacing issues, but Tanner Sharp is currently your race leader. He's pulled ahead quite well. Nate Catilla slid back here on the restart all the way back to the 4th position. Dave Wilson has moved up into the 2nd spot as Kyle Zimmer's followed through. So currently your top 3, the 3 of Tanner Sharp, the 20 of Dave Wilson, the 25 of Kyle Zimmer. Dave Wilson looking underneath the number 3 machine briefly, but the 20 of Dave Wilson catches the apron just a little bit, unnerves that number 20 machine, and now he slid back about a car length behind Tanner Sharp. Tanner Sharp trying to get that number 3 machine down there onto the white line, and he's able to do so, still holding off Dave Wilson. The big battle now is a little bit further back, and unfortunately for the number 4 machine, oh my gosh, what has happened? I was watching the race lead, but Nate Catilla and the number 4 machine, commentator's curse, that number 4 machine is absolutely destroyed. In turn number 3, there was contact with the number 98 of Christopher Bursch. Nate Catilla went absolutely spinning, came down the racetrack, caught the number 66 machine, and Nate Catilla actually ended up on his roof briefly. And caution flag finally in the air. In fact, the caution flag didn't come out until the admin threw it. But we were still green flag racing. That's why I was still commentating that battle for the race lead. But Brian Lowhead in the Tampa Bay Devil Rays number 66 machine is absolutely toast. Once again, that 66 machine looks like a modified. Kevin Cochran is without a hood right now, still on the lead lap, but that number 80 machine also not looking all too good. This is going to work for Alan Day. Alan Day actually took the wave around under that last caution flag, and he's going to be now 1 lap down. Interesting to note that he was able to get something out of this. In fact, he might get the lucky dog here because Lowhead was involved. Lowhead, the only other car 1 lap down, so I think Alan Day's going to luck out of this one, possibly get the lucky dog here. We'll have to wait and see what iRacing does. Tom Johnson in the 57 machine also looks like he might have got a piece of the accident here. As we are back under caution, Tanner Sharp still your race leader, Dave Wilson 2nd, and Kyle Zimmer 3rd. As you can see, a couple of the paint schemes here are going to have to load in once again, none with trading paints. You see pretty much all the cars in a different scheme as they all kind of bounce back in. There's the number 13 of Alan Capers. He was able to get through that melee, but it all happened between the number 98 of Christopher Burge and Nate Catilla. And that's just bad luck, Carlos, for Catilla. Yeah, you can see him out there on the racetrack. That number 4 machine is completely crabbing right now. He's on pit road right now, and so it looks like we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Looks like we're back to it. Possibly having to reboot everything here, Carlos.
Oh yeah, everything needs to be rebooted. This is the second time it's happened in a year, and it's the second time since actually yesterday. Thankfully, yesterday's it actually happened right during practice before the race even started up. So hopefully, this is just a 2-off thing, and it's not something that's going to continue. But if it does, I'll probably have to look into it. I rarely ever get disconnected from iRacing servers. The only times it's ever happened have probably been justified when the internet went out, or a fluke. And I hope it's just a fluke. But we'll see. We'll see what's going on. Thankfully, Peter, thank you so much for doing a radio-style broadcast. If you're interested in doing more radio-style broadcasts, feel free to contact us, and we'll be happy to do that for you. Anyway, Peter, can you go ahead and fill me in on exactly just what happened?
Yeah, so what happened was there was initial contact between the number 98 of Christopher Burge. Burge was on the inside of the racetrack. He had the number 4 of Nate Catilla to his outside as they were going off into turn number 3, and there was just really a coming together between the two. I can't really pin it on either of the drivers. I think the number 98 might have moved up a little bit. The number 4 of Catilla came down a little bit. and they were really, really tight going into the corner, possibly even a little bit of net code between them, and that broke the number 4 car loose, and Catella was doing everything he could to save the car, and it looked like he might have saved it, but when he came back down the racetrack, there was the 66 of Brian Lowhead on the inside groove, and Lowhead made contact with the number 4 machine, and right behind him, the number 80 of Kevin Cochran just had nowhere to go, got into the side of the number 4 machine of Catilla. Catilla ended up on his roof briefly, and Alan Day in the number 68 machine somehow scooted through it without even receiving a 0x. Did a fantastic job, and Alan Day is now your lucky dog back on the lead lap. Very impressive to see that.
Yes,
but that is all what went down. And the 4 of Catilla had to come down and use a fast repair, as did Kevin Cochran. And Brian Lowhead, unfortunately, ran out of fast repairs, and so his night goes no further here at Texas Motor Speedway. That is a tough break. But for Alan Day, good break for him. He's back on the lead lap, Carlos, and we've seen him as many as 3 laps down, but now back on the lead lap and able to make some more positions.
Yes, now unfortunately, because we the server was down on my end, I do not have a replay of the incident, so I do apologize for that. I'll do my best to look into it and see if maybe I can find out an issue is what's causing it, and if possible, fix it. But once again, thank you so much for that rundown, Peter, and we're going to be going back to green. Tanner Sharp will have the race lead, or he has the race lead at the moment. We'll see what's going to happen in the restart. We'll see if anybody is able to hold on to their vehicles or not hold on to their vehicles. As Peter, we have 44 laps left. Who do you think has what it takes to win the race?
Well, I can't go with your pick of Tanner Sharp because you've already picked Tanner, so I can't duplicate that, or else I'd be called a copycat or something like that. But I think there's one driver who's kind of had a really quiet night so far, but has shown lots of pace, and that's the number 45 of Eddie Hawks. And I think as this race continues on, that number 45 will continue to work his way forward. I think he's just been pacing himself. But the green flag is back in the air here at the Texas Motor Speedway. And speaking of Eddie Hawks, he's going to drop down to the inside line, back around the 6th position. But we are side by side for the 2nd position between the number 25 machine of Kyle Zimmer and the 20 of Dave Wilson. They're still side by side coming out of turn number 2. Look at Tanner Sharp. Is he going to start playing the lines here? He's still down there on the inside groove, blocking the number 25 machine, but the 20 of Wilson got a fantastic run up there on the high side. They're still side by side for the 2nd position, and look at this, a duo of Supras right on the number 3's back bumper. And what's Tanner Sharp doing? He's going to jump up to the high side. I think he was trying to play the lines there, like I said, Carlos, and that opened the door for the number 25 of Kyle Zimmer. They're side by side for the race lead, Carlos.
It's just a gaggle of Toyotas and Chevrolets at the moment going on, as a 9 of Tim Masters is back up where he wants to be. Maybe not necessarily the exact position. I'm sure he would want to be one more spot. He's not battling side by side with Tanner Sharp for 2nd place. As aside from the race leader, everybody else is pretty much doing the 2x2 tango. As 13 of Adam Capers has decided to join in on the fray as he tries to go by on the outside of the 45 of Eddie Hawks. I apologize for that, Eddie. And it looks like Tim Masters has the faster car at the moment, as he's able to go by the 3, go by the 98, and find himself shortly, securely in 2nd place with Christopher Burge up his behind, as he is now in 3rd place. The 20 of David Wilson, who I'm kind of surprised I haven't seen him up front in the lead. I meant to say he's been running towards the middle and the middle front of the pack, as he's finding himself 4th at the moment with 40 laps to go. Might be in a prime position. They've done a good job taking care of his vehicle. Got involved in a very small amount of incidents, but he's now finding himself with a clean vehicle, 4th place with 40 laps to go, Peter.
Yeah, and Tanner Sharp, he's stuck out there on the high line. He just continues to slide back now. He has lost out. Oh, the number 9, Tim Masters, going through the grass. Contact back up on the racing surface. Caution flag back in the air. We'll have to see what happened there, Carlos. But that was the number 9 of Tim Masters. Masters was the 2nd place car, and we'll have to see what happened here on the 3Y TV replay. Oh, Masters clipped the wall and made contact with the 98 of Roberge. The 20 of Wilson also got a piece of it, as did Kevin Cochran. It really has not been Kevin Cochran's night. The guy has just had terrible luck has really had nothing of his own doing, but once again receives a good chunk of damage. Here we go on board with who are we on board? Oh, 20th Dave Wilson here. Yeah, and Wilson got a good chunk of right front damage. Wow. What a save, Carlos.
Now,
tracking that thing, rally crossing it down there.
What the 9 car just did is something I wanted to mention earlier. I just forgot to. Is the exit at turn 4. We're talking about turn 2, the backstretch, pretty much all race. What we've kind of neglected to talk about is the 17. Oh, my bad. I thought it was in Pitt Road. That's my mistake. What we kind of neglected to talk about is also the challenges of exiting turn 4 and the outside wall there as well. I mentioned that's where I made a mistake a couple years ago at a broadcasted iRacing event. I was going to be the in-race reporter for that race. I got interviewed before the race began. I told them, hey, I qualified 5th, take it nice and easy, don't want to risk tearing up the car. And on the first lap, the car felt wonderful. It was fantastic, maybe the greatest car I've driven at Texas. And I immediately went to 3rd in pretty much 2 corners, and I decided, all right, I guess I'm going to go for it. And the next time by, I made the mistake where I just pounded the outside wall, exiting off of 4, ruined the car, and then went into the infield grass, bringing out a caution, and it pretty much ruined my race. So something you have to be careful with is deceptive turn 2 for sure, but also it's maybe not as much as turn 2. Turn 4 can also be deceptive as well, as we saw with the 9 car, as he made contact with the outside wall, resulting in contact with 3 other vehicles.
Yeah, without a doubt, a couple of those elected to come down pit road and get some damage repaired. Nate Catilla, however, in the number 4 is going to stay out there on the racetrack. And that number 4 will assume the race lead once again. Remember, Catilla was involved in an accident when we were under the radio broadcast about 15 laps ago or so. But Catilla right now, your race leader over the number 25 machine of Kyle Zimmer, who came down pit road as your race leader. Eddie Hawks currently being scored in the 3rd position.
I hit some puberty there. I meant to say we actually also have some news regarding the actual issue that happened with the 99 of Johnny Berardi. We're having some confirmation on the YouTube chat that he had a mechanical failure with his computer and a blue screen. So it's a shame to hear that. Hopefully it was maybe just a small issue. If it was, and it's working now, it could be a heating issue. Maybe get that checked out, checking temperatures if that's the case. But if it's something worse, then I do wish you were able to find a solution for that very quickly. So that's what happened on the 99, currently in 17th, 100 laps down in the garage, no longer at the racetrack. As a matter of fact, I can see the hauler leaving right now.
Yeah, that is definitely not how you want to end your race on the back of a flatbed. Definitely, oh man, I've been there before. In fact, there was a race last year, Carlos. Actually, it might have been 2 years ago. I can't really remember now. It was quite some time ago where I actually had a driver issue, believe it or not. My graphics card driver, I'd updated it the day of a race, and when I got to the race, I could only last about 15 laps inside the iRacing server, and then my computer blue screen. And it happened to me a couple times, and the only thing I could realize was, well, maybe it's the driver, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get it rectified before the start of the race. So I've had that happen to me, and it's just really unfortunate when it happens. Of course, that's one of the things that we have to live with as sim racers. Sometimes technology's not perfect, sometimes the internet's not perfect. That's really the type of failures that we often see in sim racing. Luckily, there's no random... I mean, there is some randomness to when you have an engine failure, but that's only when your car has damage. But we do have to worry about internet issues and computers blue screening and that sort of thing.
This is our equivalent of a steering pump failure, a brake failure. This is our equivalent of a blown engine, a broken axle. It's not as exciting, or maybe as well, it's just not as exciting as those things when they happen in real life. But they do happen. It's not common, just like the mechanical failures you see in real life, but that is our equivalent in the sim racing world.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's something that you don't want to see as a race car driver, and it can definitely mess up your night. So definitely a tough break for Johnny Berardi. Hopefully, Johnny, you can get that all figured out before the next week's race at ISM out in Phoenix, but nonetheless, we're about to go back to green flag action here at Texas Motor Speedway in the Lone Star State. We'll have 34 laps to go. Nate Catilla drops the hammer in that number 4 machine, and we will be back to green flag action. Good restart by that number 4 machine. I was a little bit concerned because remember, he's got a few laps on his tires compared to these other drivers around him. We had a couple of accidents earlier in the race on restarts, but that number 4 got a good jump. And we're side by side now for the second position between Eddie Hawks and the 25 of Kyle Zimmer. And keep an eye on the number 3 machine, Tanner Sharp. He got shuffled back under that last green flag run as we have a battle for the race lead. Eddie Hawks, fantastic run through turn number 3 and 4. Eddie Hawks clears the number 4 machine, and that number 45 is your new race leader here in the Lone Star State. Tanner Sharp's going to follow him through into the second position. Looks like Alan Capers in the number 13. I said it a few laps ago, he was putting together a pretty good night. Well, he's going to move himself up there now into third. And look at this gaggle of cars right behind him. Digby has a 3-wide contact between Catilla and the 25. Catilla's going to go into the outside retaining wall and still trying to get that number 4 car woed up. And that's almost a carbon copy of what happened with the number 98 machine when they made contact when we were under the radio broadcast about 20 laps ago now. But luckily for the number 4 machine, he was able to get it pretty much saved this time. But you can see he caught the outside wall with the right rear corner of that number 4 machine. That is not what Nate Catilla wanted to see. And in fact, that's not what a couple of drivers wanted to see, because that will set Kyle Zimmer back. Zimmer receiving a little bit of rear end damage out of that whole scuffle. And Zimmer now finds himself in the 7th position. Christopher Burge has slid up into 6th. But look at A.J. Digby in the number 14. Really quiet night out of A.J. Digby, Carlos. And he's still got some right front damage from the start of the race. I don't think he's used a fast repair all race long, which is pretty crazy considering all the carnage that's happened around him. But he hasn't used a fast repair. And I understand there's 31 laps to go, but I'm just wondering if that is affecting him somehow.
Is it possible?
The fact that he does have a little bit of
Is it possible he's just not aware of it? Has he been involved in another? I don't think so. It's possible he maybe isn't aware he has damage and he has it turned off, and it's at the point where iRacing doesn't have anything to fix. There is damage, but it won't fix that. So it's possible he may not be aware of it. We'll see how that will affect him negatively, or I don't think it's going to be positively, but if it does affect him at all, we'll see. We'll be noticing that pretty soon. As now Tanner Sharp is catching up to the back of the 45 of Eddie Hawks. As Tanner's been slowly catching up there these last couple of laps, and now we're about less than 30 laps to go, 29 laps to go at the moment. He's there, he's got plenty of time to either stay behind him or maybe try to push it a little and try to freak out Eddie Hawks.
Well, we've already seen Tanner Sharp get underneath skin of the number 9 machine. Earlier in the race, broke the number 9 machine loose out of turn number 2, but here comes Tanner Sharp. Sharp is just going to jump to the inside here, going through the second bend in the quad oval, and Tanner Sharp now side by side for the race lead with Eddie Hawks. Sharp on the inside, Hawks on the outside, halfway down the back stretch, and this side by side battle is exactly what Alan Capers wants to see, as he will start to close in on these two. Really tight there going through turn number 3, almost contact between those two, and Eddie Hawks is actually going to have to roll out of it here, and here comes Alan Capers going through the grass there in the first kink of the tri-oval, and Alan Capers will move up into second. So Eddie Hawks from first to first to third in about 2 laps, but he's trying to get that second position right back here, as he is back underneath that bright purple and green number 13 machine going off into turn number 3. And now this is what Tanner Sharp wants to see, because this side-by-side battle right behind him, as they're really tight, they're going through 3 and 4. This will allow Tanner Sharp to just kind of scoot away up at the front. We've heard clean air is pretty important on the front end, and that is what that number 3 machine has right now, as Hawks still looking underneath the 13 of Capers, and I think Hawks got a really good run there coming out of turn number 2, and I believe that number 45 Hawks SimWorks machine will take that second position. Look at this scrum a little bit further back. That's Kyle Zimmer underneath Billy Wise. That is a battle for the 4th position. I think Zimmer will take that position, with the number 20 machine of Dave Wilson lurking right behind the number 32. Good paint scheme on that number 32 machine. Kind of another one of those festive Halloween schemes.
It's spooky.
It is spooky.
And this is the spooky broadcast. As a matter of fact, what makes this a spooky broadcast is the very treacherous turn number 2, and also the fact that I have my lights turned off right now, so it's spooky. As AJ Digby has actually gotten passed by Chris Roberts as AJ drops back into 8th position.
Yeah, Carlos, this just hasn't been a characteristic night for this number 14 machine. I don't know if he's trying to save tires or if it's that right side damage that we were talking about just a few minutes ago. But Digby just has not been able to pass cars tonight. It seems like he has been passed quite a bit out there on the racetrack by a lot of his other competitors, and that's not what AJ needs. Remember, AJ is one of the playoff drivers trying to get his way into the championship 4 in 2 weeks' time at Homestead, Miami, as we are going on board with the number 80 machine of Kevin Cochran. Cochran currently running in 9th, 1 spot behind Digby. You can see Digby's next car right in front of him, obviously. That's how numbers work. But nonetheless, it just hasn't been the night you kind of expect from Digby in that number 14 machine, as it looks like Kyle Zimmer has caught up to the back end of the number 13 of Alan Capers. We're on board with that number 13 right now. Last time by, Kyle Zimmer, fastest race car on the race circuit, and as I say that, live timing and scoring updates, and Dave Wilson was actually about 3/100ths of a second faster than this number 25 machine, but nonetheless, Kyle Zimmer very, very quick, as we're now down to only 22 laps to go. Tanner Sharp on his return race to the SimPossible Racing League, trying to get that checkered flag, would be a very, very impressive comeback. I'm sure he would be absolutely elated to get yet another win
Chris
here
Roberts
in the
in the
Speedcar
grass.
Series. Oh,
No
Roberts,
caution.
yeah, in the number 98 machine. He was running right in front of the number 14 machine of AJ Digby. Let's see if we can go back and see what happened here on the 3-wide TV replay. Right in front of Digby, and a little bit of contact there, Carlos, and I'm curious to see, yeah, I think Roberge in the number 98 machine actually might have clipped the apron a little bit. That might have unnerved that machine. Let's see if we can see what happened here in the, looking back. You see he gets very, very close to that white line, and, I think he clipped that apron just a little bit, had to check up, and unfortunately for the number 14 machine, there was absolutely nowhere to go, but that will move Digby up into 7th. And Digby has already run down the number 32 of Billy Weiss, so it looks like Digby might be starting to charge forward here, as he will, sure enough, take that 6th position. So AJ Digby on somewhat of a charge here. He's at a pretty decent gap, about 1.5 seconds up to Dave Wilson. Wilson, the 5th place car out there right now. Last time by, Dave Wilson, once again, fastest car on the racetrack, about 0.2 of a second faster than Tanner Sharp. Over the last 5 laps, Kyle Zimmer has actually been his car, though, Carlos, about a 10th faster on average than Dave Wilson. Tanner Sharp only mustering up the 4th fastest average time over the last 5 laps. So will this field start to close in on that number 3 machine? Laps are winding down, however, with only 18 laps to go.
Yeah, they're not going to be closing in as long as these two drivers battling for second are going side by side. Tanner he's ecstatic to see these drivers going side to side, actually for about the last 2 laps now, as they're actually off of 4. As it seems like the 13 is able to hold off the 45, but the question is, for how long is he able to do that? How long can he do this? And this is also hoping that 25, not only 25, but the 20, David Wilson, who was just a bit further away when all this started, while you were talking about that. I thought I saw the 13 get loose. It's not a 25 that's taking it to the inside of the 45. That's going to help the 13 maybe pull away slightly. 20 is there as well. He has driven it hard. He's been driving it hard all night. He's been going hard for about 4 hours now. You should be calling his doctor. But as they're about to go 3 wide into the front stretch, going across the start-finish line, going back side by side, the 13 is just doing his best to hold off in a little Talladega light over here.
Yeah, it is so hard to make jokes about that number 20 machine of Dave Wilson, as he is going to come up on the back of that number 25 machine now, and this is now a 4-car battle for the 2nd position. Tanner Sharp has been able to scoot away to a 1.5 second lead. We'll have 15 laps. Oh, the 13 is going around right in front of the 20 of Dave Wilson. Wilson nowhere to go. And we're under caution here at Texas Motor Speedway. Oh, Alan Capers finally getting that thing righted, but that is not what Dave Wilson wanted to see. Right in front of him. And I think that number 13, Carlos, he was right down there on that white line. Not quite sure if he hit the apron or not, but I think he might have clipped that apron and got loose coming out of the corner, but that's not what he wanted to have happen. Of course, he was running in the second position there, Carlos. Very tough break for the number 13.
Yeah, very fortunate he didn't get hit by anybody else, especially at the high speed that everybody else had. He wiggled it slightly. I still not sure if he hit the apron or not, or just gave it too much beans, but right there, that was Alonde, I believe. That would have just destroyed both of their cars, and would have resulted in him having to tow as opposed to just being in the back of the pack while everybody else goes on and gets tires. Peter, as these laps wear down, we're getting some more long runs, but we're probably going to be restarting with 10 laps to go. This is it. Essentially, this could be the last pit stop. I don't expect anybody else to go down pit road, as we see the 32 just slightly overshoot it. Unless they're in the back after resulting in a spin or something. I can expect there to be maybe a caution or two as a 3 is going to go back up front. But Peter, what are your thoughts on what's going to happen? And let's see if we can also talk to somebody else.
Yeah, well, I would be also to see if we have another couple cautions here at Texas Motor Speedway. It's absolutely go time, and usually when these laps start to wind down, the intensity starts to go up, and sometimes that intensity kind of boils over. Hopefully we don't see any more cautions. We want to make note that A.J. Digby actually used a fast repair and got rid of that right front damage that he's had for pretty much this entire race, so he's been saving those fast repairs without a doubt. And in fact, let's see if we can dial up that number 14 machine of A.J. Digby. I just want to see if he knew he had that damage or not. AJ Digby, this is your short in a 3-wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yep.
Well, it looks like you're going to be restarting here in the 4th position when we go back to green with probably about 10 laps to go. You had a lot of right side damage for a good portion of this race, but you finally elected to use the fast repair. Did you know that you had that damage, or were you just saving your fast repairs, trying to make sure that nothing happened there at the end? What was your mindset in that whole deal?
Well, I knew that having a clean car, especially for the end of this, could be very important. We've seen a lot of incidents just on the drop of the green flag. So I wanted to try to save it as much as I could, and I had optionals throughout the entire race that I've been taking little by little each caution, and determined that this one, I had all 4 left still, and this was one that I could use it on and hopefully have a clean car and maybe find a little bit of speed. This 14 has been lacking a little bit. Not one of my favorite tracks either. Haven't ever really been that good here. But just tried to keep the car out of trouble all night and have been able to do that for the most part. Just a few nicks and scratches and a little bit of that right side damage. But all in all, I was able to keep the 14 out of too much trouble. And here I am in 4th position with a chance for a quality finish, which is what we need being where we are in the points. So just had to have a quality finish and increase that point gap even further going into ISM, which I'm great at. And we got to finish out this race. Still 10 laps to go, plus possible green, white checkers. And I don't think I have anything for the win, but possibly a top 3. But holding a top 5 is the top priority.
Well, you said the dirty words, green, white, checker. Hopefully it doesn't have to come to that, but pace car lights are off, so we'll let you get back to it. AJ, best of luck here in this brief run to the checkered flag.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone who's in.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that is driver of the number 14 machine, AJ Digby, just putting him back in his channel here. And Carlos, he's kind of said you need a clean car at the end to win one of these things, and we see a couple of the cars around him with damage, including the 25 of Kyle Zimmer and the number 3 of Tanner Sharp. And then it looks like Dave Wilson used the fast repair. AJ Digby used the fast repair. It's going to be interesting to see if that clean car pays dividends here in this run to the checkered.
That's true. As I just noticed a quick issue with our race recap there. Having a clean car is going to matter, but at the same time, you can have a clean car all race. If you wreck on the last lap, you can't do anything with that clean car you saved. So not only will you have to be up front, you have to be lucky and not make any mistakes. As the pace car's about to come off. Peter, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, pace car down onto pit road, and green flag is back in the air. You see everyone hitting that loud pedal, getting a little bit squirrely in the rear end was that number 3 machine of Tanner Sharp, but he's able to get that thing loaded up and get that power down to mount that charge off into turn number 1. Look at Kyle Zimmer. He's getting a nudge from the number 14 of Digby. Digby trying to say, hey, but it's go time. I need to go for this win. And look at Dave Wilson down there on the inside. Wilson going for that second position in that number 20 Toyota Supra. He's got the number 25 to his outside. Ooh, that number 3 of Tanner Sharp cut down the racetrack to cut off that number 20. That's going to give the Highline a fantastic run. The 25 of Kyle Zimmer side by side for the race lead here with now only 10 laps to go at the Texas Motor Speedway. And wow, look at AJ Digby. He's going to use that Highline, see if he can use that to his advantage. We've seen Kyle Zimmer do a good job of it, but Zimmer not quite able just yet to get that race lead. Tanner Sharp still holding tough on the inside line. And what about Billy Wise? He's now up into the 4th position. He got around AJ Digby. Digby not able to get that Highline working for him. And so that number 32 gets himself up into the top 4. What can Billy Wise do here in this run to the checkered flag? That's a really cool looking number 32, a spooky number 32. What can he do with only 9 laps to go? Dave Wilson all over the back bumper of the number 3 machine. We do have a slow car just up ahead. It's Chris Roberge. Not quite sure what happened to Roberge in the number 98 machine, but Carlos, he's well off the pace, and perhaps something else happened here that we've seen a couple times tonight. A couple of cars have issues, and indeed, Roberge had an issue coming out of turn number 2 a couple laps ago. He's on pit road right now. So unfortunately for Roberge, he's one of your playoff drivers. He's not going to have the finish he needs to tonight to see if he can get into the championship round at Homestead, Miami. But back up at the front, Tanner Sharp still holding on to the race lead. 8 laps to go, 7 laps to go this time by when they go past the stripe, but all single file up at the front. Everything's kind of calmed down, Carlos.
That's true. As looks like somebody gave the Tanner Sharp a pretty big bump in his back bumper. That's pretty dented on the Halloween, almost giving it a sort of 3D effect. But the only one kind of being scared right now, maybe Tanner Sharp in the 3 car, as he's got the 20 of David Wilson all up behind him right now. The 20 is trying to poke his way inside from behind, as he's making some contact, pounding it deep behind him. As now the 3 cars checking up, the 25 is looking to go by on the outside as they're going side by side for the lead now. Going into one. Going into one side by side for first and the 3rd place. As now the 3 cars getting a good run on the inside, the 25 is going to get another run on the outside. Peter, why don't you go ahead and try to continue going? They're wrecking behind!
Oh, yeah, they're wrecking behind. Eddie Hawks in the 45 machine has gone around, and the 86 of Alan Day also hard in the inside. One caution flag back in the air, and Carlos, I think this is going to set us up for green-white checker. That was some great action there, 2x2x2 up at the front. Let's see exactly what happened here. Alan Day up there. Ooh, maybe Alan Day might have clipped the outside wall there, or he might have backed off to avoid hitting that outside wall, and the 45 of Eddie Hawks kind of ran over the back of that number 68. And unfortunately for Alan Day, getting some pretty hard contact with the outside wall. And Carlos, I was going to mention that number 68 machine did a fantastic job of recovering here tonight. Had got himself all the way solidly inside the top 10 in the 7th position. But yeah, definitely made contact with the outside wall. And a little bit of contact there with the 45 of Eddie Hawks. Both of those cars receiving a significant amount of damage. It'll be interesting to see if any of those drivers still have any faster pairs here for what will be a green-white checker. And Carlos, to pit or not to pit, that is the question. Looks like Tanner Sharp is going to pit. Kyle Zimmer is going to stay out. Billy Wise is going to stay out. AJ Digby comes down. 3 cars on pit road. 3 cars out there on the racetrack. In fact, Mato stays out. Catilla stays out. This is a turning point in this race, Carlos. I can't believe we're seeing what we're seeing, but basically the entire field split 50-50 on whether or not to come down pit road or not.
I don't know. I said last time by, this is going to be the last stop unless you get involved in an accident or you're already in the back. I'm not sure if maybe this was the right call for Tanner Sharp. They only ran a handful of laps, and probably about 8 laps or so. Tanner Sharp's taking... Oh, my bad. I thought he took 2 tires. He's actually taking 4 tires. The only one that took 2 tires is actually David Wilson in the 20, who actually beat Tanner Sharp. That was probably maybe the worst call. No offense to you, David. I'm not quite sure if maybe that was the best call, taking 2 tires when you're already going to be in the back and being the only one to do so. it's I'm not. I think this is the 25s now. I'm not sure if Billy Wise has anything for the 25 of Kyle Zimmer, but I've been surprised by the skills of every single one of these drivers that have been here since the season began. They've all improved. I wouldn't really be thinking that Billy Wise would be running up front with on a green-white checkered and contending to win, but he's improved massively. Same thing with Nate Catilla, who's now finding himself in fourth. Tim Masters in third. Kyle Zimmer, you can no longer just run his race. He now has to be careful. He slips up. It's like a team playing the Miami Marlins. They're not the good team. They're not a good team right now. But if you just take it easy, they will stomp over you. Same thing with what they did to the Brewers and. Earlier this season, they just destroyed them. So you have to be careful. Kyle has to know that he can't give up. He still has to commit to all of these corners, drive it in there like a championship contender. And if he does that, he might just come out of this with a win. But at the same time, Billy Wise is there to spoil his fun. Tim Masters, Nate Catilla, Fernando Matos, and that fantastic scheme. Peter, we haven't really talked about this scheme. We've done a huge disservice. Peter, you have all the facts about this scheme. Why don't you go ahead and talk about it right now?
Well, yeah, this scheme on this number 17 machine was hand drawn by a friend of Fernando Matos in the Special Olympics, and very cool scheme on this. A young kid drew this number 17 machine, and it really is a special paint scheme to see that was drawn in crayon on a piece of paper, and then Matos scanned it in and upload it to the iRacing service. So that is why this scheme is just so unique. It's very, very cool. I mean, there's so many things about this scheme that you just can't replicate with Photoshop or Paint.net, whatever paint software you use. And it's just such a unique feel. And it's really fantastic that Fernando's out there repping this car here at the end of the SimPossible B Car Series season, and I think he's probably going to be open to more of the same similar paint schemes in the future. In fact, but there has been such widespread support for this number 17 scheme that a couple of the other drivers have mentioned possibly doing it at some point in the future as well. Of course, Tim Masters has that number 9 that's hand drawn by himself, I should say, right in front of the number 17. So it'd be very interesting to see here if that number 17 can get himself up a few more positions here at the end of this race. Nonetheless, pace car lights are off. Will that number 17 be able to improve from his 5th position? Will some of the fresh tires prevail? Only time will tell. We've seen some issues here on the restart here tonight, Carlos, with some old tires. Will that rear its head once again? Only time will tell. Pace car is on pit road. There's 2 laps to go. This will be an attempt at a green-white checker. And the number 25, Kyle Zimmer, good restart for that number 25 machine. Now we'll have to see whether or not those 4 tires can use that high line to their advantage. The inside line really boxed in. Contact a little bit further back between the 20 of Wilson and the 14 of Digby. Really, Tanner Sharp in the number 3 machine, he's going to have to do all he can. Oh, contact between the number 13 of Capers and the 4 of Catilla halfway down the backstretch. The 3 of Tanner Sharp is going flat out. I don't think he's really lifting. Tanner Sharp going 3 wide now through the middle, slicing up between the number 9 of Tim Master. They're 3 wide through the tri-oval. Contact between the 3 and the 4. And Tanner Sharp unable to do what he needs to get around those cars, and all of a sudden it's looking like, Carlos, you mentioned it before, contact, there's net code, and that was a huge amount of net code, and there's a huge wreck on the backstretch, and oh my gosh, the number 80 machine up and over, but looks like we're going to stay green because we're on the last lap, and it will be Kyle Zimmer go 2 for 2 in the round of 8. The number 25 machine, victory lane at Texas Motor Speedway. Billy Wise comes home 2nd. Tim Masters in 3rd. Eddie Hawk comes home 4th. AJ Digby 5th. But Carlos, that was a huge accident on the last lap. And unfortunately for Tanner Sharp, he was involved in that one, and his return race will not go to plan. Nate Catilla smoking across the start-finish line. Thanks for killing all the mosquitoes in North Texas there, Nate, but unfortunately not the finish you were looking for. Kevin Cochran comes home 13th with a car that went absolutely flipping on the last lap. Alan Day recovered to finish 8th. Good run for him. But pretty crazy out there to finish this race, Carlos.
Yeah, definitely not the finish that the 3 wanted, but he's got to come out of this very pleased with his efforts tonight. Definitely a finish that he didn't deserve, but he definitely showed he has what it takes to be back at his full speed.
Now, what about Billy Wise in that number 32 machine? He's not in this round of the playoffs. Unfortunately, Billy Wise was eliminated by a tiebreaker a couple weeks ago. But a second place finish, a good result for that number 32 machine. And Tim Masters in the number 9 machine doing what he needs to do, because he was a couple of points outside of the cutoff line. Remember, the cutoff line was Chris Roberge coming into tonight. And Roberge, unfortunately, with that contact and getting sideways and getting loose in that number 98 machine, he finished 1 lap down in 14th. So that's not what Roberge wanted. This is going to be a good points night for that number 9 machine. But Kyle Zimmer taking it to victory lane, back-to-back wins, winning at Kansas 2 weeks ago, and doing so again here in the Lone Star State at Texas Motor Speedway, burning them down here on the front stretch. Well, Carlos, how about we step away for just a brief moment as that number 25 grenades on the front stretch. Now all the fans are now not just going to get a face full of tire smoke. They're going to get a face full of engine smoke. I'm sure they're not going to appreciate that too much. Well, maybe they will. Who knows? But we're going to step away for a brief moment, line up some interviews for you guys, and we'll be back right on 3Y TV in a moment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Texas Motor Speedway here, where this 200-mile race here in the Lone Star State has just concluded, and what a crazy finish it is. You'll get to see all of the action on the last lap there in slow-mo here in the background, but we're going to dial up some of your top 3 finishers, beginning with the number 9 machine of Tim Masters, and let's see if we can get him in here. Tim Masters, Peter Short here in the 3Y TV booth. You got a copy?
I sure do, Peter.
Man, I'll tell you what, it was kind of a crazy night for that number 9 machine. You were up at the front about a third of the way into the race, definitely showing some muscle in that number 9 machine, but electing to not pit under that last green flag, or excuse me, that last yellow flag pit stop there, gave you some track position. How important was it there at the end to use that track position to your advantage?
Well, first off, I'd just like to say how excited I am to have Tanner Sharp back in the league racing with us tonight. Man, he's been through quite the challenge with all of his stuff, and being able to come back on the track and race like he did tonight is just an amazing thing, and super glad to have him back. Glad to have Alan Day joining us, and also Tyler Sontag joining our SimPossible Racing League. Great to see our league growing like this. Yeah, on that last pit there, I had it checked so I would only get right sides. So I was going to say, if the leaders didn't come in, I was going in and getting some fresh right side tires and hoping maybe they would follow behind me. But once I saw like 3 or 4 of those folks up front go in, I was like, nope, I'm staying out for a bit and we're going to see how this plays.
Yeah, well, you definitely made a fantastic call to stay out there and coming home with a good third-place finish, kind of shifting gears over into the championship side of things. You came into tonight about 9 points out of the cut line, which was Chris Roberge. Roberge didn't quite have the night he was looking for, and a couple of the other drivers around you in points not having as good of a night as you did. How important is it for you to kind of get into this race, or come out of this race, I should say, with a good top 5 finish?
Well, I think I thought I was kind of in I have to win it to get in it kind of situation, because last race we were running. I ended up on my roof, and there was no way to get back into the pits, and it was pretty early on in the race, and it's just racing. Sometimes you can't do anything about it, so I figured, well, I've got to have to win at Texas or the next one. So I'm not sure. I mean, I know finishing third is going to be beneficial, but I'm just not sure if it's going to be enough to, pull through and get me to the next round. But I'll sure try next time.
Yeah, well, definitely a fantastic night for that number 9 machine here tonight. Next week, we have ISM Raceway out in the desert, out in Phoenix. What are your thoughts about ISM?
Oh, it's just a whole bunch of fun, and it seems like every build it's a little different in how you're going to drive the track. So I'm looking forward to seeing it this time with all these cars on the track, and hopefully we have another full field. It's just going to be a really great time.
Yeah, you mentioned it. 2 new drivers to this league, Alan Day and Tyler Sontag. We had 19 starters here tonight, which was very, very impressive. Pretty darn cool to see that out there, Tim. Before I let you go, you got any shout-outs for us?
Yeah, certainly. Again, I'd like to thank the folks from 3D Wrap who got me this hand control device that I use. Without this device, there's no way I'd be able to make it this long of a race. I struggle enough as it is once we get past that halfway mark. But having devices like this that are assistive, that help me to be competitive and still do the things that I enjoy in iRacing is just such a huge blessing. So really fortunate for companies like 3D Wrap who reach out and say, hey, try our product and see if it helps you out on the track, because it sure does. And thanks again to Jeff for everything he does for this league, and you guys up there in the booth. You make rewatching this a wonderful experience.
Well, you're going to enjoy watching the replay that's going on right now. Is that really you could put some ballet music or something to it as we got cars wrecking.
Canon and C minor playing in the background.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you're talking over a car doing barrel rolls on the backstretch right now. But nonetheless, Tim, congratulations on a 3rd place finish here tonight. And best of luck next week at ISM. Hopefully you can get into the season finale at Homestead, Miami.
Thanks, guys. It was a lot of fun.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is your 3rd place finisher, Tim Masters, here tonight. And Carlos, have you caught up with the 2nd place finisher, Billy Wise, or are you going to let that hand that one over to me?
No, I'll be able to talk over to Billy Wise as soon as he is he here?
He's here.
As soon as he's putting away his guitar, he's about to celebrate a fantastic 2nd place finish. Billy, I know you definitely are not going to tell me that you're mad because I knew you wanted to get that win, but you're mad because you wanted to get that win. How's the 2nd place feel right now? You're getting yourself a good finish late in this season.
Oh, 2nd place is just as good as a win. Feels great. It's a really good run tonight. We're really happy.
Well, let's go ahead and call up Chuck Mangione, because we are not going to listen to Feel So Good, even though you do feel so good right now, finishing 2nd place, going on to ISM Raceway with great momentum. How's your approach to that track going to be, especially compared to an approach to this type of track?
I have no idea. I haven't been there yet with the new Xfinity car, so I should probably do some testing this week. And if we have a little bit of speed, we'll try to race it out and go for a win. If not, we'll let the chase guys go at it and just try to stay out of the way.
Oh, that's good to hear. Going on. Definitely a happy day for you right now, finishing 2nd. Just in general, how was your race overall? How did the car feel? How was everything going on that probably resulted in you in finishing on the top 5?
I just can't believe we got 2nd. The first half of the race, we were involved in just about every incident there was out there. And we were down to one quick repair with like half of the race to go. We even went down one lap. And I don't know, I just kept fighting and fighting. And with a little pit strategy at the end, I was surprised to see Tanner and Dave pit. I think we only had 4 or 5 laps on that set of tires. And they pitted, so I stayed out with Kyle. And so that's the call, really, that got us 2nd place.
Well, that's great to hear. Moving on to ISM next week, we already have your thoughts on that track, and we're just excited to see you get yourself a good finish. Moving on to next week and Homestead the week after that. Before we do let you go, though, do you have any shout-outs you want to give out?
Yeah, I got to give a huge shout-out to John Hendrick, Over the Top Paint and Designs. He painted my car tonight, so I was really glad I could Thank you. Yeah, I was glad I could get it a podium anyway with it. And the Wise Guys Band and magicalbutter.com. Check them out.
All right, thank you so much, Bill. You can go ahead and go back to jamming, as I believe Peter Short has caught up with the race winner, Kyle Zimmer. Is that correct?
That I have, and I'll tell you what, Billy Wise made a pretty wise decision to stay out there on the racetrack, but driver of the number 25 machine, Kyle Zimmer, did as well. And Kyle Zimmer coming home with the victory here tonight. Kyle Zimmer, Peter Short here in the 3Y TV broadcast. First thing I want to know is what was going through your head when you decided to stay out there in the racetrack? We had seen here tonight a lot of drivers use that track position to their advantage, but what was going through your head when you elected to stay out on the racetrack?
I should try the strategy, and the tires weren't too bad. And the last green flag before the last yellow came out, we had a lot of grip on the track compared to the practices, and really on Dacia's race, but it wasn't that much laps left. But I was actually surprised how many people got out too, so it really helped as well. But back again, early on the race, I had a bad qualified lap, worked my way up, and had some instant first 50 laps. I want to apologize to Johnny for that, and Rockin' one of them. And because I both totaled for, I lost 2 laps there, was able to back the lap, it was able to get back at the front. It just stayed out at the last caution, and it worked out for me. And the win, so happy for it.
Well, I'll tell you what, back-to-back wins here in the round of 8. Definitely going to give you a lot of momentum in a couple of weeks' time when we go to Homestead, Miami. And I think I asked you this last week, but for those viewers here again, Homestead, Miami, of course, will be hot on your mind, and hopefully you can go out there, get some practice in. But I'm going to skip ISM because that race doesn't really matter all too much for you. But in a couple of weeks' time, we have that championship race. What are your thoughts about going to Homestead, Miami in 2 weeks' time?
Homestead is gonna be one of the tracks I'm still on mindset for, and it's a similar track to like today and last weekend. I have won the previous 5.5 tracks, so there's a lot of momentum going for Homestead. But next week, I'm just gonna cruise, try to get ready for Homestead. So that's when I'm gonna try to get track position. Excited for it, and I believe we're gonna be doing night race, so it's fun to watch for sure. So excited for see what happens in 2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah, should definitely be a lot of fun to watch that race, as Kyle, you will go for yet another SimPossible Racing League championship. We also, I just want to give you the opportunity before we let you go to give us some shout-outs.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to shout out to you guys for Rewind TV for broadcasting this week. I also want to thank Jeff. A big shout out to him too. Created this link once again, and the second season. And I also want to thank for Chase Racing and Toyota. Been a big momentum for the whole team over at 9 wins in a row between me and Dave. Hope we can do the next couple of weeks. I want to thank everyone who participated. It was a fun night. Forward to next week.
Absolutely. Well, we're looking forward to next week as well. Kyle, congratulations on winning once again here in the SimPossible B-Car Series, and we will see you at ISM Raceway. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that will just about wrap up our interviews with the drivers. But now let's jump over to Jeff Schmidt, league owner and organizer. And I believe, Carlos, you've caught up with him.
Well, the season's been a blast. It definitely went by quicker than we could have ever imagined. 33 race season flew by. It was more than 33 weeks, being off weeks in between for a few. So it's yeah, it's been a long journey of B Car Series season here in SimPossible, but it's been a whole lot of fun. It's been amazing, and since these new cars changed not too long ago with the service, that it added to the fun. It's unfortunate we weren't able to use the new car earlier in our season here with the B Car Series, but it's been a lot of fun, man, and I can't wait to see what happens. Tonight's race was absolutely insane. It was some awesome racing, a lot of back and forth with some drivers. I mean, you couldn't tell what was going to happen because there were so many guys out there that could contend for a win, and it shows the skill level of the drivers in this league to all be able to contend that way and be that close with each other at a track like Texas. Not the easiest track to drive, and it being a little loose out there in different circumstances. So really just proud of everyone, and I thought it was an awesome race, man. A lot of side-by-side racing. Yeah, that's a great question, man. ISM Phoenix is it's a great track. It's a lot of fun, and it's a track that drives like nothing else. If you don't have the practice in there, then I don't know what to say. It's definitely a driver's track. It's something that you have to practice a lot. Every corner drives a little bit differently than anywhere else that we're used to. Turn 4 is very flat. Turn 3, it's a hard place, especially when it's hot and slick. So it's going to be interesting to see these guys progress and to get over to Phoenix ISM and see what they can do, man. It's going to be interesting. It's definitely a hard track to keep a fast pace at. Yeah, definitely the drivers in the league. So awesome. What a great field we had tonight. Even a couple new drivers. Alana, of course, has raced with us once before. Picking up Tyler tonight. Welcome, Tyler. An awesome addition to the league, like every other driver has been. Man, we're just so blessed to have such great friends, and all just have a lot of fun, man. Just doing this, racing, being able to talk and make a little bit of a community out of it. It's been a lot of fun, and we're definitely blessed to be able to do it. So, the families of the drivers, of course, for helping them out. Everyone that watches the broadcast, whether it be live or later, thank you so much for your support of even watching it and supporting the drivers whenever you can or however you can. Anyone that follows us, thank you so much for the support. We really appreciate everyone, and it's been a really amazing thing, and we just can't wait to see what we can actually do with this. I know it's been over a year now, but it's still a new league, and we have a lot planned, so we're very excited.
I just want to congratulate Jeff on this league continuing to grow. I mean, I know this is the end of the season, really, and usually you start to see in a lot of leagues that the attendance falls off as the season goes on. But the SimPossible Racing League just continues to grow and get more cars week in, week out, and that's absolutely impressive and a testament to just how much fun these drivers are having out here, because usually the attendance falls off because drivers are not having fun, and it just continues to grow. And it's very, very awesome to see that, Jeff. Congratulations on putting together such a fantastic league.
I appreciate that very much, Peter. I really do, man. That means a lot, and that's what we strive for. Having a good time is utmost important. So, it's awesome to race for a championship, a race win, to be the quickest on track. And of course, as you see, there's some awesome competition in this league to be able to go out there and try to get better and better and whatnot. But we really have open arms to anyone that wants to come with us, that wants to be part of this. So it's designed for everyone, and it just so happened to work out the way it did, and we're really proud of it, man. We really are proud of it, and everyone has a great time. It doesn't matter about the skill set that you have. It's about having fun and push each other to progress.
Absolutely. Carlos, any final things before we let Jeff go? Yeah, make sure you're not tilting your head as you watch these race results on the screen right there. As the world is upside down right now. Kyle Zimmer is your race winner here tonight. Billy Wise making a wise decision to stay out there under that final caution, comes home in second. Tim Masters likewise comes home in third. Eddie Hawks fourth. Dave Wilson rounds out your top five. AJ Digby sixth. Remember, Wilson and Digby were two of their championship contenders, as was Tim Masters and Kyle Zimmer. Alan Capers comes home in seventh. Capers really needs to win to get into the final round. Unfortunately, comes up a few spots short tonight. Alan Day, possibly the recovery of the night. He was 3 laps down at one point, but comes home with a top 10 finish. Tom Johnson comes home in ninth, and Fernando Matos rounds out your top 10. In the 11th position, the number 3 machine of Tanner Sharp. That's not the night he wanted. You see at the bottom of the screen, he led essentially half of this race here tonight, Carlos, leading 66 laps, but only can muster up an 11th place finish. Nate Catilla in the 4 machine, he was also very strong in parts of this race, but he unfortunately involved in that accident there on that last lap, coming home in 12th. Kevin Cochran, who we're riding on board with right now, barrel rolling down the back stretch, comes home in unlucky number 13th spot tonight. Chris Roberge comes home 14th, first car 1 lap down. He was needing a good night as he's one of your championship 8 drivers. Brian Lowhead, the first car not to finish, comes home 15th. Johnny Berardi 16th. Thomas Wise 17th. Tyler Sontag, new to the league, 18th. And Wayne Lowe, he actually is the spotter for the number 4 of Nate Catilla. So he technically wasn't in the starting field tonight. He didn't turn a lap or anything like that. But he is 19th on the screen. But nonetheless, Carlos, fantastic race tonight. A lot of action all the way to the end. But I believe, Carlos, you have a few thank yous that you'd like to give out here before we go off the air.
Well, yes, before we do get to that, I'm actually kind of glad that you went ahead and read the full race results, because I have an embarrassing little secret I want to admit to right now, Peter, and this is embarrassing and I'm out of practice, but it appears that I forgot to unmute my mic for the broadcast after we came back from the commercial break, so pretty much everything I've been saying has been unable to be heard by the broadcast, so I do apologize to that. I just looking at it now is like, that's definitely should be highlighted. I don't know why that button's not on, so do apologize for that. Do apologize for Jeff and the interview that we missed. So we were able to hear him and we were able to hear you, but unfortunately my voice was muted. As Peter, I'm going to go ahead and let you go ahead and take care of all the thank yous, as I do not deserve to mention them right now.
Well, first off, we want to thank Carlos for unmuting himself. Or do we want to thank Carlos for unmuting himself? I don't know. Nonetheless, we want to give a shout out to our friends over at SimTV for giving us these awesome camera angles that we have each and every week. Also want to give a shout out to our friend Thomas Morris from OCR TV for giving us this graphics package. He continues to work on it and continues to make it better for us here. And it's a lot of fun putting these races together for you each and every week. I want to give a thanks to Jeff Schmidt, league owner and organizer here in the SimPossible Racing League, for having us, as we have a lot of fun doing it, and it's definitely a great league to be a part of. And Carlos, I think it's going to be really interesting. Everyone watching the broadcast is going to be like, man, everyone just knows what people are talking about. Like, they're answering the questions like they know what people are talking about. Whatever. Anyway, nonetheless, I'm just going to stop talking because I can't talk. Maybe I should mute my microphone. But we will be back next week for ISM Raceway for the penultimate round of the SimPossible B-Car Series, which should be an absolute fantastic race out in the desert. For myself, Peter Short, and Carlos Acosta manning those cameras, and also talking tonight when his microphone wasn't muted, I want to give each and every one of you a good night from each of us. See ya!